Hello, Parser people. Happy it's absolutely Tuesday. At one time, I used to just stream on Tuesdays. I don't anymore. I just stream when I want. Thank y'all for the early follows. That's very sweet. So today, because it's the week before Thanksgiving, I just wanted to play some, sad Yuri games. Different shorter games. Hopefully I can get through all three. That just are like sad and wistful and absolutely the vibe that you want on a party in Sunday night. I am actively avoiding watching sports, and gonna do something more fun. So we've got three games. One of them is You Can't Save Her, which was one of the ones I really wanted to do from IF Comp. IF Comp is a very cool thing. It is a giant sort of game jam, but well predating the idea of game jams. It's more of a straight competition. This past year was the 30th anniversary. There were some incredible games, and we played some of them over last month and things like that. If you want to check it out, there are some really, really good ones, either on the YouTube or I don't know, make Twitch happen. And then there is I think what looks like a traditional VN with some gorgeous graphics. I'm really, really excited for that. And after that is lostmemories.net, which I had downloaded already, and I have no idea what it is. But it was designed for a art exhibition. So I am super, super stoked for that, and kind of just want to hop in as quickly as possible. Especially since there's music for all of this, which means I can turn off Spotify, which is nice. Now if I can find what I'm looking for. Here it is. Alright. Okay. So we're gonna start with You Can't Save Her, which is by Sarah Mack. For just in general, I have not played any of these. I haven't looked at particularly if there are any strong content warnings. I'm hoping this is cozier than that, but just as a general warning, which I will more specifically say when we switch games. But this was written by Sarah Mack, and it's got music by Falling Islands, which I will do one of these. So you can check out You Can't Save Her. It's hosted on the IFDB, the Interactive Fiction Database. The cover art was by Aisha. The story apparently takes about 12 minutes. We'll see. Things tend to take longer when they're when it's like, being spoken. But it was made for the 2024 Interactive Fiction Competition. It was made in Twine. If you want to make sort of interactive fiction games or hypertext games, Twine is really, really cool. It's a open source tool. It is free. It is low code if you want it to be. It is very, very cool. I have not played with it enough, but I've played with it a little. Heck yeah! Special thanks to, and I think these are the kind of people that really make games happen. Kakwe Liang, Pooja Nancy, Gil Go, the Twine Discord, and Zero Sleep. It really is like beta testers and beta readers and just people to kind of have a meltdown about your game. That is how games get made, genuinely thanks to those kind of people. Okay, let's actually play this. There are options? Okay. Yeah, we definitely don't want to enable any undo buttons. Because if we don't like the ending we get, it's only a little bit. We could play again. Yeah. Keep time passages on, and let's save on screen stuff. Cool. All right, let's hit start. Oh, hey, content warning. Great. Descriptions of violence and blood. Yeah, if it's got... Oh, okay. No big deal. Fight scenes, several descriptions of wounds inflicted. Just to be totally honest about what the content warnings are. But that seems relatively minor. Headphones are recommended. I will double check once the audio gets in for me to make sure that this comes up okay. Rad. Okay. You can't save her. This is what they told you. And this is what you tell yourself. When the children at the monastery come of age, they must complete a test. After your friend left, you feared what your test would be. Your fears came true. The nuns told you that you must kill her, for she had fallen sway to the other god. So you start by preparing your weapon. A greatsword forged from soul steel. Let's try something else. Okay, saber carved from angel bone. A rapier shaped from dream silver. Let's do a saber carved from angel bone. You pray that you are prepared. And you machine it with sigils of faith, etch it with invocations of death, anodize it in dreams of martyrdom. Let's go with that. This is what you try to believe in. You put yourself into your work in the way that faith demands sacrifice. And you bring a blaze gun, even though she called it a coward's weapon. The pale desert of this moon curves toward an empty horizon. She is to the north. Clouds of gray dust swirl in your wake. The wind is howling a language that you do not understand. She is to the north. A building rises in the distance. This is the cathedral where she is waiting. Blackened piles of rock dot the landscape. These must be the remains of the golems that protected this once holy space. She is to the north. The cathedral pierces the sky like a stalagmite. Slashing sounds echo from inside. She is to the north. The sculptures on the cathedral's facades have weathered away. The faces are blank and the folds of clothing are fading dunes of stone. She is to the north. She is still waiting in the north of the cathedral. in front of the altar. The arches and walls are scarred with gashes, and the altar is stained red. You look up. She's a silhouette, cloaked in moonlight. Moonlight is shining through the stained glass window, painting a rose of rainbows on the floor. She is still waiting. You take a better look at her. Her face is a palette of scars. Her hair barely conceals the nubs of her antlers, which are like buds emerging out of soil. Her eyes glow bright pink. This is worse than you feared. So we finally have a choice. We can shoot her, or you have to do this. I'm not shooting anybody. I refuse. You have to do this. You fumble with your blaze gun for a moment, but you steady yourself and you shoot in her direction. The bullets simply rain against the stone walls. She has disappeared. You ready your blaze gun. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. So she could be to the north, any direction. So I wonder if this is turned... I wonder if this is now a game. So it's just going around the compass rose, but it's actually knowing all the words for each direction we could go in. I'm gonna go south by east. 1 second. She isn't to the south by east. You swerve around and you spot her behind you. The pink marks on her body and her eyes are glowing brighter than before. 2 seconds. She casually sidesteps your saber and laughs, as she always did. You stop to catch your breath. You consider your choices. 3 seconds. She smirks as she parries your thrust with such strength your saber flies off to the other side of the room. It clatters on the floor, and the sound echoes throughout this hollow space. Your old friend starts laughing harder, laughing in the way that one would laugh at the antics of a small child. She smirks as she sidesteps your sword again and again. You are children at the monastery and you are training to fight. She was always better at anything physical. Your form has always been far clumsier than hers. The sunlight is prickling your skin and you are trying your best to ignore this. Frustration is burning in your chest. She's still laughing. 1 second. You hit her hard. Too hard. She grimaces as she falls, clutching her chest. 2 seconds. You watch her fall. 3 seconds. I'm sorry, you say as you run to pick her up. She groans, but she says it doesn't hurt at all. The nun jogs over to bring her to the infirmary and you insist on following her. The nun insists that you can simply return to class, but you continue to apologize. I'm sorry. She tells you it's okay, you didn't mean it. This might speak about me more personally, but I'm gonna go with I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You didn't mean it. But still, after class, you continue to tell her how sorry you are. You tell her, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. You tell her I'm sorry once again, and you say that maybe you can give her something to make up for this. She tells you no, it's okay, and laughs. Maybe we should just practice later instead. You should work on your technique. You could hit even harder. Just meet me outside. Your goddess has granted you a vision. Your old friend will visit you in the hope that you can be saved. But she is wrong. You know that she will bring a saber carved from angel bone, and so you remember to bring the same weapon. And you imbue it with runes of faith, infuse it with an aura of death, empower it with dreams of martyrdom. Let's imbue it with runes of faith. This is what you believe in. And you put yourself into your work in the way that faith demands sacrifice. And even without your goddess's vision, you know that she will also bring a blaze gun. She was always a bit of a coward. You're in the cathedral, waiting for her. You observe how the arches are carved into perfect curves with mathematical precision. You're tired of this worship of symmetry. There. You leave your mark on this building, slashing your saber against it. The cathedral walls are now a patchwork of grooves like scratches on an old toy. You put your saber down. You are tired of waiting. But you hear the rhythm of boots against sand, then marble. She is here. You're wearing the moonlight like a cloak. Moonlight is shining through the stained glass window, painting a rose of rainbows on the floor. She's walking towards you. You take a better look at her. Her face as stony as ever. Her eyes burn with determination. Her hair is combed perfectly like the statue of a hero. Exactly as you expected. She's raising her blaze gun, her finger on the trigger. So we can sidestep, we can duck and roll, we can stay still, or we can step into a fold in space. Duck and roll backward. The goddess gave you the freedom to make your own mistakes. You defy her vision, just to prove to yourself that you do not need it. You duck and roll backward, and she completely misses. You can hear the bullets patter against the wall, and you can hear her heartbeat race faster. You try not to laugh. What an idiot. Sidestep to the left. So I guess the lit ones are what the goddess wants us to do. So the saber rakes your chest. You can already feel the wound healing, your flesh reweaving itself. So you can't hold in your laughter much longer. You let out a peal of laughter, and your old friend stops in her tracks. She draws deep, labored breaths. Then she meets your gaze. You know what to expect, and you wait for her next move. Maybe this would finally scare her away. You tighten your grip on the saber and parry her attack. To your surprise, she lets the weapon go. It flies off to the other side of the room and clatters on the floor. You hear a ghastly echo. You laugh again. This is the first time you have seen your friend in years, and her first reaction is to try to kill you. Maybe she is still too scared. You're teenagers at the monastery, and you heard that the nuns are burning books today. Ritually destroying heretic texts today. Most of them were stolen, but some were confiscated from an acolyte in the monastery. She's been locked away to be re-educated. However, this does not stem your curiosity. You are young and curious. Naive, foolish. You want to steal one of these texts before they're destroyed, and your friend is refusing to help you. They have been banned for a reason, she says. They must be dangerous. It's best not to read them in the first place. but you tell her, don't you want to know what's out there? There must be worlds other than the one we know. She pauses. You know that deep in her stubborn heart, she wants to read it too. Okay, she says, but how? It's not that difficult, you answer. Just sneak into the library storage room during the assistant's break. So you waited with her in the library, waiting for the assistant to leave. The assistant steps out and the both of you sneak in. Inside, you see piles of thick, yellowed books and loose paper. The books do not look very different from the books you have seen in the library, and you feel a little disappointed. Let's go now, please, your friend says. Just as you turn around, you notice that one of the books is glowing pink. You don't remember picking it up, but you remember your friend telling you to put it down. She says, it must be cursed. Please leave it here. That makes you want to read it more. You're on your bed reading a book. You learn about the other god. You spend your next nights reading the book, and your time burns away. A few days later, you tell your friend, please read it. There's another way we can live, a way beyond these walls. Your friend says, I don't need to know. I don't want to know. But you insist. You ask her, don't you trust me? And she trusted you because you were her friend. She didn't have the strength to fight back. She opens the book to a page in the middle. Your friend simply stands there, transfixed, as she flips to the next page, then the next, ignoring you and everything around her. Then she stops and throws the books down. She tells you, you should be reported for keeping this. You ask her, are you really going to? She doesn't look at you. No, she answers, of course she can't. She was always a coward. After that, she doesn't strike as hard during training sessions, doesn't answer as many questions in class, doesn't talk to you as often. She lives like a ghost. You don't apologize to her, but you tell her, I won't force you to do anything you don't want to ever again. You know that this sickness is your fault. Maybe she read something that was too dangerous for her. Maybe the very idea of other choices was too dangerous for her. Ideas are the most dangerous things in the universe. You wonder if reading the book broke her somehow. You wonder if you are the reason why she has lost her faith. The sacred algorithms have made their predictions. They've predicted how she will fight you. How you must fight her. You must simply follow their instructions. She can't be saved. You walk into the cathedral at a speed of 1.64 meters per second. 13.67 seconds later, she will disappear. And after 0.58 seconds, she will reappear 183.24 degrees clockwise from the north. Hence, you mustn't shoot yet. Stay still. Oh, that's cool. 1 second. She has reappeared 183.24 degrees clockwise from the north. Can shoot 3 shots charged at 58.31% power, 197.53 degrees clockwise from the north. Or wait. I want to shoot. Interesting. Okay. 2 seconds. She deflects the first shot and dodges the second, but the third shot hits her squarely in the stomach. The fire eats away her armor, then her padded clothing, then... You look away. You don't need to see her to follow the sacred algorithm's instructions. Shoot one shot, charged at 99.98% power, 197.4 degrees clockwise from the north. You want better choices. She deflects your question. You ask her again, what did you read from the book? I can't explain it, she says. Just stop reading that book. You continue reading the book. You learn how this goddess bestows gifts to her followers, while the god you believe does not. He only cares about maintaining order and structure. So you understand why the nuns chose your friend to lead instead of you. They chose her, even though both of you know that you are the better fighter. They even say that she will one day become another hero, another legend. Well, of course they chose her. She follows their every instruction. She thinks in binaries, and yet she truly believes that the only choice she has is to fight. You want more choices. So you press on with reading through the book, and eventually you reach its middle. At this point, you're reading this out of hate. You hate the monastery's rules. You hate this place is honing you into a weapon to fight for a cause that you do not even believe in. You hate this society's worship of order and structure. You want more choices. So you keep reading. You turn over the page. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Her thoughts are your thoughts, are her thoughts. Time slows down until all that exists are your thoughts and her thoughts. Maybe time does not exist. You flip to the next page. You've been asked to check on your friend. The nuns notice that your friend did not attend any training sessions today. You wonder if she assigned you to check on her because you are the leader of your cohort, or because the nuns know you are her friend, despite their disapproval. You bury those thoughts deeper into your mind. You just need to focus on the task that they have assigned you. You walk up to her room, knock her door a few times, and turn the knob. 1 second. The door begins to open. The room is dark, and it is only lit by flickering candlelight. 2 seconds. You see the corner of her desk. 3 seconds. The door is fully open. You see her sitting at her desk, reading the book that you should have warned her about. Her skin covered in glowing pink marks. You close the door. It's your fault, isn't it? You should have warned her about the book, but you didn't. You were scared that warning her about it would have made her want to read it more. You replay your regrets. Would have made the experience more real, would have reopened a wound. You have to end this loop. You try to make a decision. You could talk to her, but you fear being close to her. You don't know how dangerous this situation is. You could report this to the nuns, but you know the acolytes who were sent to be re-educated never come back. Oh, okay. I don't know how dangerous the other god is. She is. So you make what you think is the best choice, which is still a poor choice. You explain the situation to the nuns. omitting your role in this story? For you are a coward, and you hope that she will survive as long as possible. At least she would be safe. You visit her cell. The entire room smells of urine and the walls are covered in black grime. She doesn't stand up when you approach the bars. The marks on her body are still glowing. So we do this after begging the nuns for this little freedom. I'm sorry, you say. I wanted to do something. I thought this would be better. Better? She says, I guess you're right. Now, I finally have a good reason to escape this damn place. But how? You ask. This monastery is surrounded by an army of golems. It's barely an army now, and I have a way. If you want to join me, meet me at the gates this evening. So you wait. But you make what you think is the best choice, which is still a poor choice. You chose to stay instead of leaving with her. Leaving this life. You don't want to eke out a life outside the monastery, outside all this structure. You don't want to believe in the other god. You don't want to believe in any god. When you read the book, you realize that to the gods, you are only specks of dust, punctuation. So you can only hope that your friend is safe and your future test will not involve her. Your hope is greater than your faith these days. You're at the gates, waiting for your friend. The garden is littered with the crumpled remains of golems, and the fountain water is a deep red. You're carrying a saber that you stole from the armory. You continue to wait. To stave off your boredom, you toss the saber up into the air as if it were a knife. I have no answer to your question. Oh, we can continue waiting. You catch the saber in your hand. She's still not here. 4 seconds. 5. You're tired of waiting, but still, you wait a little longer, holding on to your last bit of faith, your last bit of hope, counting the seconds for the last time. Soon, time will not matter to you anymore. Time is an illusion that helps stories make sense. You hear the guttural rumble of the golems. One of the golems aims its arm of rock at you. You realize that your friend has left you waiting. Has left you. Has betrayed you. But didn't you tell her a long time ago that you wouldn't force her to do anything that she didn't want to do? The golem launches the rocks in your direction. The rocks are suspended in the air and everything around you, the golem, the water from the fountain, the blades of grass, is completely still. You admire the golem for a moment, its cracks, its runes, and the way the light reflects off every imperfect crevice on its body. The nuns could never explain whether the golems are controlled by the sacred algorithms or if they're powered by some arcane mechanism. You turn around and cut the gates open with your saber. You wonder if the gates and golems are meant to keep heretics out or keep the worshippers in. You pull the bars away and they remain suspended in mid-air. They stay in place like a broken rib cage. You wonder what stories the monastery will tell about you. You wonder if you will be the main character of their cautionary tales, the monster in their bedtime stories, or the ghost the children will whisper about in the dead of night. You walk through the bars. You walk away from the monastery. You wipe away tears. You can save her. This is not what they told you, but this is what you tell yourself. You already have pictured this fight with her, replaying every single one of your blows again and again. The nuns directed you to consult the sacred algorithms, but you do not want to add to the statistics of violence. So when you step into the cathedral, you ready yourself to talk. The nuns told me to kill you, but I don't want to. Or I'm here because the nuns told me to. But no, I don't want to kill anybody. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. She turns around. You notice how the marks on her skin are still glowing pink, and you notice how the years of fighting have cratered her body. Her irises flicker like fire. She says, "You could just go away. You didn't have to find me." You pause, but I wanted to ask you something. Could you come with me? Could I leave with you? We can find a corner of this universe where we can just live together. Can't you both simply be punctuation on a page? Can't you both simply be as invisible as possible? No, she says, we can't. Your old friend had her chance, but you've waited for far too long. I'm here now, she says. But you know that this is too late. You're both different people now. And how could she follow you, fighting your battles, if she doesn't want to believe in the other God? In any God? In anything? Except for you. You can't be her north. You avoid her gaze as if it was the sun. You shouldn't come with me, you say. I don't think we can save each other. You want to argue with her to win her back to your side. The words crawl up your throat, then fall down again. You want to apologize to her, to smooth over your guilt. Nothing leaves the fortress of your mouth. You want to argue with her to win her back to your side. So you can only hug her. Stand still. You know that this is the last time you will ever see her. So you hug her. You feel her stiffen for a moment, but after a heartbeat, she pulls you closer. You remember hugging her harder than the world was hurting her. The world was hurting you. The both of you. Then she lets go and turns around. She raises her saber and slices a tear into space. The edges of the tear crackle with pink energy. The tear opens up, revealing the shattered landscape of a planet that you do not recognize. Far off in the distance, you can see another cathedral. Don't find me again, she says. It's better for the both of us. Then she steps into the tear and it closes like a wound. You stand at the cathedral for a while, watching the space where she stood. Then you walk over to a wall and run your fingers through one of its gashes. This isn't your battle to fight now. You walk away from the cathedral, and you do not return to the monastery. And that was... You can't save her. So one of the things that so this was incredible, and I really wish I had this when IF Comp was going on, because I would have rated it very highly. So typically I have my co-host with me, and she's a really big fan of Porpentine. And at some point we will play a bunch of Porpentine games. But I think it's very cool that it borrows lines from a Porpentine's game, or from a Porpentine game, and from notes on one of her games. That's neat. This was really, really good. I am confident that there are actually choices in here that are super, super quiet. I'm curious what they are. But this also is probably way shorter to play on your own. And one of the big reasons why I like playing these games is so that other people can check it out. So cool. That was you can't save her? And just whoop, that's not it. Just in case you do want to play it, that's probably the best place to get it. That's where I think I got this version from. Okay. Well, that's a game. We're going to do another one. So this is a game by... There we go. This is a game by Mocha Devs, and as part of a team called Teams. This seems like a reference to something that if I remember right, it's hard to figure out. Anyway, Team Cetacity. Moon looks. Aha. This is available on itch. Both of the games that we're gonna play are available on itch. Yeah. So this, I believe, is a more traditional visual novel. This might actually be the first visual novel that I've done. So we've got writing by Mocha Devs, art by Curvia, Quavase, RRO208, Hamburee, and Loveless Skia. Research by Bina, who knows a lot about space, and CO1A _, who knows a lot about PC98 games. This is really exciting to me just because I've been trying to learn more about PC88 and 98 games. Oh, cool. Yeah, so it definitely is a visual novel if it's made with Ren'Py. Proofreading by Cilia Willy, Ministar Fruit, and Bina. We've got some audio. Very cool. Let's see what the help file is. Standard. Okay. Looks like standard Ren'Py stuff. But yeah, even this, what really attracted me to this was this dithering and just the palette and everything like that. So I'm really, really excited to see what they do with it, because this is such a stunning title screen. One year ago, an unparalleled terrestrial catastrophe, now known as the Megaterrestrial Explosion Scenario, MTES, drastically reshaped our understanding of the Earth-Moon relationship and the wider dynamics of our solar system. Today, we look back on this world-shattering event and the scientific research that followed to appreciate its lasting impact. The Earth-shattering event resulted in the moon being thrust into a radically new orbit, resulting in an instance where it was ejected from the Earth's gravitational pull. This was dependent on the strength of the force generated by the MTES. This shift led to significant alterations in lunar gravity, causing a cascade of geological disruptions like moonquakes and severe surface damage. In the aftermath of the ejection, the moon began to dramatically interfere with the gravitational balance of other celestial bodies in its path. The lunar body posed the potential threat of being impacted by another planet's gravity or causing imbalance in the gravitational fields of nearby celestial bodies. All this speaks nothing of the incomprehensible amount of lives that were lost in the event. By the explosion taking place in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the immediate loss of human life was kept to a minimum. The combination of aftermath damages over the span of the past years resulted in the death of approximately 0.94 billion people, with the number steadily mounting as the rescue efforts continue. The equivalent of 231.75 trillion US dollars has also been spent in rescue and relocation attempts alone, with hundreds more of trillions of dollars spent on repair. The explosion of Earth, coupled with the significant rerouting of the moon's trajectory, sent shockwaves through the vulnerable gravitational equilibrium of our solar system. This event has led to a chain reaction of gravitational shifts that may result in changing planetary orbits, disturbance of asteroid belts, or even catastrophic planetary piece of junk. Rose keeps her eyes closed as she hears Violet curse under her breath. Stressful situation or not, she's as straightforward as ever. There's shuffling, then the small click of her picking out a tool from her belt to tinker with the module. It's the fourth time this month that it's malfunctioned, and Violet hasn't given up hope on what the both of them already know, that it is far, far past its prime, and they're going to have to give up the ghost on it sooner rather than later. She's far too tired to remind Violet of this, not when the conversation ends up fighting... Oops. fighting towards points that Rose wasn't trying to make. We need it to work, Violet would say, as if its intended status was what made it a change in the matter. Don't you use it for, like, audiobooks or something? Because if not, you really should. Keeps the mind intellectually stimulated. I sure as hell like it. And sure, Rose liked it, even if she already listened to all of her favorite books 10 times over. Even if her work was more or less a futile maintenance of technology that was old a decade before they arrived up there, the voice was nice. She liked that she could change what it sounded like, that she could turn the dials to make the pitch higher or the cadence slower, or she could pretend that there was someone there besides the two of them. Even with her eyes closed, she could tell that Violet hasn't moved, that she's still tethered to the side of the wall, muttering to herself and tugging on wires. She sighs through her nose, undoes the straps holding her to her bed, and gets up. Hey, Fi, you're up early. ... She didn't laugh. That makes sense. Hey, yourself. Sleep well? Mm-hmm. I'm glad then. She gives Rose a pat on the shoulder, holding the pose for a second too long before returning to her work. Seriously, the sort of crap they just threw up here. You'd think they'd have agreed to give us some more entertainment, just in case. Yeah. They might be stranded in space forever, so let's make sure they've got a few good books at least. Not forever. Can you hand me the wire cutters? They should be in the fourth bag from the left. Rose nods, though Violet has turned away anyways and floats to the side of the cabin. She's really awful at telling what things go into which identical containers without labels, and the last of their dry erase markers had merrily shit themselves 2 weeks ago. Found it. Here you go. Thanks. Rose watches Violet work. She's meticulous, straightforward, diligent, and good at what she does. Like, really good. Even in training, she'd been so determined to get out of the moon maintenance and onto the illustrious projects, Mars farming, or the Jupiter mission, to name a few. Meanwhile, Rose had just been happy to leave gravity and go to the stars. Guess I got that. If we ever get off here, I'm sure Violet can get any mission she wants. She washed her hair today. I can smell the shampoo from here. Violet's hands work the parts in and out, ripping off unnecessary odds and ends that had gotten tangled before slipping them back into the side of her pouch. Waste not, want not, and all that. Her sweat beads off her scalp and into the air. Rose swallows thickly. There we go. Violet snaps her tool back into the belt. The screen stutters once, twice, and then comes back to life. Good. Transmission's still playing. Rose doesn't understand how Violet can get excited for these anymore. In the first week, they were already a lifeline. The second, wistful. By the third, they had already started to be a complete and utter bummer. Whatever. This time was the anniversary. She begins preparing breakfast as the static breaks. The heart hums a little harder as she begins with her button inputs. Year on from the... Violet slams her hand down on the screen one more time. It jitters. The scientific community continues to model and predict the ongoing ramifications of this unprecedented event. Rose pulls out the container from the oven, then sharply recoils as it scalds the underside of her skin. Tisking lightly, she lets it cool mid-air as she watches the monitor from over Violet's shoulder. The hope is that through this research, we will gain a better understanding of our evolving solar system and potentially safeguard against future terrestrial catastrophes of a similar case. Perhaps the most pressing of our research concerns efforts in further exploration and space retrieval, as 2 brave frontiersmen still remain on the moon to this day, collecting data, communicating with Earth, and eagerly awaiting their opportunity to come home. To close this off, we put forth a heartfelt message from us on Earth to those in space. No matter how vast the distance, know that you are not alone out there. Good night, everyone. The transmission clicks off. Rose reads the final timestamp. The broadcast aired exactly 2 hours and 42 minutes ago. Huh. They call this frontiersman. Violet's depressed. Once again, the broadcast is hung in hollow promises and awkward hopes that render continuously null and void. Not even a personalized little message from Nova or anything. Secretly, Rose is surprised they keep sending them. There's little reason for them to not just pretend they've died and abandoned them. Violet probably realizes this as well. Rose clears her throat and Violet turns, picking at her teeth with an idle nail. It's mango flavored today. Figured I'd break out some of the best tasting stuff. Special date and all that. We deserve it, don't you think? Thanks. To her credit, she picks at her food with intent. Rose sits beside her, already scraping through the condensed slop. They had to start rationing flavor packets, and though the mineral-fueled gruel was nigh limitless, Rose wasn't really looking forward to sustaining herself on this for the rest of her life. Violet swallows it down quickly before pushing herself forward, passing Rose a pat on the back as she floats by. But seriously, thanks. It's tasty. Thumbs up and my compliments to the chef. I mean, if essentially microwaving something qualifies me as a chef, sure, but the heart, yeah. Violet waves her hand haphazardly in the air, scrubbing the residuals off the side of the container into the recycling. Doesn't make a difference to me. You're the one who handed it to me, so I should be thanking you, right? I'm lucky I got sent up here with a girl as cute and housewifey as you. You imagine what sort of gross garbage I'd have to deal with if I was living up here with a guy for a year? Ugh. She blacks, but she's laughing all the same. It's as if she's completely and utterly oblivious to any and all impact her words could have on Rose. Her smile is warm, almost dangerously so. Rose smiles back. Rose likes working in the dark, not because not being able to see is very fun. In fact, it's pretty unsafe. But the lack of fluorescent lights let her pretend that it's something more reminiscent of home. If Rose ignores the blinking lights of the machinery, she can pretend she's in her garage, messing around with knickknacks under the light of her flashlight. Under the dim light of her personal corner of space, the world feels a little smaller, a little less overwhelming. The complexity of the machinery and the absolute oddity of her situation all dissipates under the gentle shroud of semi-darkness. It's comforting. A cocoon away from the reality of her tasks and the distance between her and home. She grabs one of the tools floating around in mid-air, glances at it, and grabs a different one, leaving the other spinning in its wake. She presses the tip of her welding gun against the metal, then pulls back sharply. Ow! Ow, ow, ow. She sucks on her thumb, one-handedly finishing up the job before letting go of the gun. She unplugs it and it sails through the air as it rapidly cools. Rose is far more preoccupied with the results of her labor to pay attention to it, though. Tossing it into the air, she watches as it somersaults twice before settling on its trajectory, lazily circling the cabin. Rose lounges back, letting her arms drift lazily in the air behind her. For all her upset and being unable to return to Earth, there's a reason that this was her dream for over a decade. Number of people who got to experience something like this in all of human history still found itself shy of a few thousand. The heart hums all around her, its influence shining through the screens in gentle palpitations. More than anything else, Rose knows. It feels like a motherly... No, that's not the right word. It was a protective feeling, surely, but motherly was hardly the right term for it. Regardless, it felt good. She sighs deeply, feeling a strange serenity in the silence of the spacecraft. It's a type of peace she rarely got to experience back on the ground. A silence that's not laced with a foreboding quiet or tense knuckle grips. She glances out at the expanse of stars twinkling against the velvety blanket of darkness. It's breathtaking and humbling all at once. Though she didn't dare to even let the thought, no. Though she didn't dare to even let the thought fully form. There was a part of Rose that secretly, actually, maybe didn't want to. Knock, knock. Can I come in? Ah, shit. No, you can't. Just give me a second. Rose fumbles through the air, clawing for the thing to little avail. Its lungs slipped out of her grasp, turning over in on itself as it floats. Rose? I'm coming in. Violet pushes the door open while Rose takes too long to respond, flicking on the light as she comes in. Rose's creation gracefully floats itself right into Violet's forehead. Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. All she can do is watch helplessly as Violet plucks it from space, holding it between her forefinger and thumb as she turns it this way and that. A frown forms on her face. What's this? It's supposed to be a bunny, but it doesn't look like much like one, does it? Or, like a figure of a bunny, not a real one, obviously. So Violet looks at her as she's grown a second head. Self-consciously, Rose rubs the back of her neck, biting back a self-deprecating chuckle. I'm not even going to bother asking what this could be good for. Listen, you don't need me to tell you what your time is better spent doing. You've heard that from me often enough. But using up resources? Come on. She sounds more disappointed than mad, which is worse, especially when she's right. Why wouldn't she be? Rose's stomach sinks, a palpable guilt rising up the back of her throat. Of course she's supposed to be more responsible. More on top of prioritizing their mission, more on top of prioritizing their damn survival over her whimsical creations. She lets her gaze track the walls around them. Hey, chin up. I mean, it's still, cute. It's just... Her voice trails off before she pockets the bunny. Not the time or place. You know that, right? We've got a home to get back to, and if we find ourselves short of something... No, yeah, don't worry, I get it. And she does get it. Rose gets it because she's been trapped up here for a year too. And she's just as aware of the fact that any day now the water recycling system could fail, or the thing that turns her hair follicles into a food source could get a little too rusty and they'll all be poisoned or something. They're barely alive as it is. They don't have the ability to spare trinkets or for something as frivolous as a bunny. Okay. I'm glad you do. Oh... The heart beats. It always has, in pulses and hums. The wire's heat travels in rhythms and their screens' backlights flicker in tune. It's subtle enough that if you're not paying attention, it could seem random even. But Rose has been here for a year and a day, down to the hour, and she's watched the patterns through her eyes enough to get the rhythm. It lulls her to sleep in the same way that her fan did at night, when she'd sleep in nothing but a bra in the summer. It's a comforting background piece. And so it doesn't register at first. She thinks she's dreaming, caught in utter silence for the first time since she can remember. Rose. Rose. The heart isn't. It's not. Violet can't finish her thought. She grips the bars making up the frame of Rose's bed so tight that she could snap them. All Rose can do is stare as the realization dawns on her before Violet's finished speaking. It's not beating anymore. Rose almost doesn't believe her at first, if only because her own heart thrums so loud in her ears that all she can think is that surely can't be the case. A heart stopped? But that was... Then again, what hasn't been impossible this year? Like a switch, the silence becomes as suffocating and as oppressive as ever, crushing her from all sides. It's a deafening absence of the hum, the pulse, the rhythm that's been their constant companion for so long. The silence fills the space where the heart's beat used to be, punctuating the gravity of the situation. Rose rips the covers off her body, tossing them aside with a frantic energy. The weightlessness of the cabin makes the blanket float lazily in the air as she pushes off her bed, sailing across the cabin towards one of the screens that typically displays information about the heart. They blink back at her, void of the usual rhythm and life, dead and silent. This can't be happening. This can't be. Her fingertips trace over the cold wires, the dormant screens, the still gears, all motionless, all silent. She can hardly comprehend it, but there it is, right in front of her. Of course, they'd prepared for countless emergencies and malfunctions, system errors, and damage from potential space debris alike. Hell, they even prepared for being cut off, in a sense. Unexpected inability to travel to Earth or communicate with ground control had been a necessity of study. But somehow, the heart, it was different. It couldn't break. At the very least, they couldn't have anticipated for it to break for them. They were just... She was just... Rose. Rose, listen to me. Violet grips her shoulders, and when Rose blinks, Violet's floating inches away from her face. She can feel her breath on her skin. Rose, we can fix this. It's going to be okay. Calm down. Rose takes a shaky breath, attempting to steady her racing thoughts. She reaches up to grip Violet's hand. Violet lets it stay there. Her expression does not change. Listen, we're a maintenance team. We might not have been trained for this specific sort of emergency, but we've been trained for tens of dozens of near variations on it. Now, we need to gather our gear, diagnose the problem, and execute a solution. If you think about it like a series of tasks, it'll be easier, and more importantly, plausible. Violet's grip tightens. She comes in closer, her eyes searching. For a moment, Rose feels her own heart stop. We're surviving this. We're going to go down there, kick that junk around till we've got it fixed, then hunker on down as our grand accomplishments finally impress someone down there enough to fucking... She cuts herself off and closes her eyes, breathes through her nose. Even though this moment is the most scared Rose has ever been, she doesn't think she ever wants it to end. You good now? You got this? Rose nods slowly. Slowly first, and then with a bit more vigor. Violet nods back, then removes her hand from Rose's shoulder. She drifts, then turns away. Rose is already packing up as Violet records the transmission down to Earth. There's no time to waste. Moon Maintenance Team AB to the ground reporting in. Abnormalities with the heart have peaked and we are currently getting no response from it. Repeat, the heart is currently non-functional. Seeking permission to enter the heart in order to perform a diagnosis, over. She sent it as a formality, but even Violet knows that there is no time to wait for a response. The time it takes for the transmission to reach Earth alone is far better spent turning on the rail cart, one of the few things up here that doesn't rely solely on the heart. Rose gives Violet a small wave as she ducks down the hatch, and Violet's nice enough to nod back while she scribbles through her paperwork. She might not wait for a response, but she'll still follow protocol as best as she can. Rose is fine with that. The rail cart is an old thing. Rose has used it a few times, enough that she knows the controls and that it's more of a pain in the ass than it's worth. Back when cleaning the tunnels was a bigger priority, they'd use it at least once a week, beginning the laborious process of securing their suits and keeping track of their vitals. Once it became apparent that they'd be far more preoccupied with the maintenance of the main satellite they actually lived in, there was little reason for them to travel inside the moon. It's not as if anyone on Earth would be able to benefit from its resources anytime soon, regardless. The booting up process is a ritualistic exercise in precision and patience that begins with unlocking the power switch, a small red button concealed under a protective cap on the control panel. The rail cart hums and stutters. And in Rose's panic, what if the internal battery wasn't enough? What if the heart controlled this in some way too, actually? She jams at the button again. Please work, please work, please work, please, please, please. But it works, and after a moment, the button illuminates, its dull red glow a quiet reassurance in the dim light of the lunar tunnel. The cart's a remnant of a bygone era of routine maintenance and thorough exploration, back when the moon was something to be discovered rather than optimized. The cart's body, marked by years of lunar dust and scratches from its travels, is a testament to its age and robustness. It's squat and cylindrical, the size of a car designed to handle every sort of unique pressure the moon could throw at it. She hates the inside. It's Spartan and utilitarian, primed for practicality and survival over comfort. It houses a control panel covered in a variety of switches, buttons, and knobs, all labeled with faded text and symbols that she'd once committed to memory for testing purposes and now just kinda sorta knew. Vi, what comes after the navigation systems? Need me to do it for you? No, it's fine. I've got it. Okay. You can probably skip on communications, by the way. Save us the power. Right. Not much use when there's no one to talk to. Rose bites her lip and pulls at levers and presses buttons, glancing at instructions engraved into the side of the cart whenever she forgets if she's supposed to turn it right or left. There are 2 seats, one for the driver, one for the passenger, both well worn and faded beyond comfort. There are tethers in the back, giving users of the cart suitable space to both store cargo and sleep. A holographic display flickers to life as Rose finishes up, the cart's vitals successfully charted through backlit LEDs. Power levels, system integrity, capacity for life support status. She scans each metric, making sure that she's satisfied before reaching for the heavy metal dial at the front of the panel. Kerthunk. The rail cart lurches gently, securing itself on the track with magnetic clamps. The smooth hum of the electric drive fills the cabin, the vibration almost comforting in the absence of the heart. All done already? Nice work. Violet ducks inside, pushing against the door frame to avoid hitting her head. Despite herself, Rose glows from the compliment. Thanks. You're really fine with the not waiting for a response. Not that Rose cares, but Violet's probably the main reason they actually get responses back anymore. Violet sighs. I mean, I'm honestly kind of stressed out about it, yeah. But I'm more stressed out about dying, so kind of a no-brainer. Rose worries her tongue through her teeth, then smiles as strongly as she can. That's a good attitude to have. We're definitely going to get through this then. It's cheesy, and Violet gives her a dry look. There's a flicker of something akin to appreciation in her eyes. There are a few more hushed moments as they look over the railcar's controls, and then, with a shared nod, they let it lurch forward. The next 6 or so hours of the journey would be uneventful enough that Violet decides they can sleep. Alarm system is functional enough that we shouldn't have to worry about missing the engine rupturing or something. I doubt that'll happen at this point, or that we could do anything about it if it did. You just kind of leave it running. The more rest we get, the better. Rose nods. If Violet thinks it's safe, she's probably right. She's stringent and paranoid enough that she wouldn't allow for something like this if she hadn't already dotted her I's and crossed her T's. And also, Violet was just smart like that. Rose trusted her. They're kind of pressed for room. When they tie themselves to their tethers, Rose tries to give Violet her personal space. Really, she does. There's only so much of yourself that you can control when you're half floating in space, and they're not yet far enough inside the moon for it to start being warm. So, now that we've drifted closer together, it's okay if I don't push away, right? We've known each other for long enough that it's not as if this is weird or anything. It's warmer this way anyhow. Violet's eyes are shut mere inches from her own. Without even trying, she can make out every single one of Violet's lashes. She had the patience and time for it, she could count them. She's really pretty like this. Hey, focus, okay? Or rather don't. It's important to fall asleep and rest. If we're going to be able to deal with the heart, then the organ of their survival, now a dead weight in the belly of the moon. Everything corporeal eventually ends, sure, but the heart had only just begun its warning stutters a few weeks before they'd first landed there. Ground control had promised another decade, at least. 7 years if they were being really cautious. But a year? Well, that just means we need to go fix it, right? That's why I need to rest, because if we have any chance of getting out of this, I actually need to get my act together. If we have any chance of getting out of this, then there's a very real chance we might not survive this. The thought attacks her through her skull like a bullet. The only other time she's felt this panicked, and truly, really panicked, not her usual playground victim kind, was when the moon had first been ricocheted off course. Constant transmissions and apologies and grievances falling through, and national mournings being held, and I'm not even dead yet. I'm not. I'm alive. Please don't say something like that. Please. If I'm dying, then let me... Can I... She needs to say it. She can't not say it. Vi, are you still up? What? Yeah. Trying not to be, but what's up? Just, the whole situation we're in. Violet shifts in the dark. Fair enough. Oh, that's cool. Their beats per minute is increased. I don't know if the temperature has. She's laughing. Not unkindly by any means, but Rose has known Violet long enough to tell the humor in her voice. Things are rough for sure. You know we've got this, yeah? All that time spent studying wasn't for nothing. And even if you forgot some stuff, I can remind you. You're good with your hands besides. So, don't worry, yeah? Violet squeezes Rose's hand in the dark. For some reason, that makes her feel all the more guilty about what she's going to say. Rose takes a deep breath. Yeah. Listen, Vi. While I have the chance to, I want to try and say something, okay? Sorry, you just look more stressed than you did when the heart stopped. What, are you gonna confess to me or something? Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. Seriously? Can you say something already? You're starting to stress me out. Look, Vi, I appreciate how optimistic you're being and everything about how we'll fix it and how everything will be okay. But we don't know that for sure, right? We don't even know why it's broken, let alone if it can be fixed. It's not like it's ever broken before in the first place. And if that's the case, and if I only get this one chance to say something, then Vi, Stop. She jerks back, and already Rose can feel Violet's body warmth fading. It's replaced by a hot, painful shame. I'm sorry. No, it's not. I'm not mad at you or anything. I'm just, like... Violet's hand teases her belt. Rose can't help but follow the motion in the dim light, watching her fingers deftly swing the tools around in zero gravity before catching them as the trajectory goes off balance. Listen, we need to be completely and utterly focused on succeeding. If we fail, we're dead. Zilch. Nada. We're done. So we can't screw around even a little bit, okay? This isn't the time for something like this. Despite herself, Rose feels the tightness in her chest bubble. Isn't the time for this? Don't give me that crap. I mean, seriously. What's the right time then? What's the right place? Come on, if you can answer me honestly, would you let me finish on Earth? Violet can't meet her eyes. Let's get some rest, Rose. We're tired. You're stressed out. Things will be better after you sleep. Okay. Violet rolls over. She falls asleep facing away from Rose. The blades of her ceiling fan whir dully over Rose's head. It's summer again. Or technically it's spring, but it certainly feels like summer. What with the heat and her neighbor's radio buzzing in her head. The only difference is that if it were summer, there wouldn't be a big stack of unfinished assignments still on her desk. Just 2 more weeks. Just 2 more weeks, and then she'd have passed the exam and given her ticket out of this shithole. Just 2 more weeks, and she'd be smooth sailing for the rest of her life away from girls like Fiona who would whisper under her breath whenever she passed, because girls like her knew about Rose and away from Eternal Wednesdays. Just 2 more weeks. The heat beats down through her sheets like sin, and she breathes through her teeth. Aista? Her neighbor's radio sings louder. She pulls herself up and glances at the time. 3:42 in the morning. It's grounds enough to file a disturbance complaint, right? She swings her feet over the side of the bed, letting them thwap satisfyingly on the floor before pulling herself up. Me, your swear do? Oh. The radio's static voice punctures the early morning hush, a disjointed melody at odds with the steady whirring of her ceiling fan. It reverberates through the thin walls, its lyrics jumbled and garbled, unmeasured and out of tune. An irritant she doesn't need a chorus to her frustrations. I'm not asking for the moon here, just some damn silence. She draws in a deep breath, an attempt at pacifying the building irritations in her throat as she stumbles to the door. Her hand rests on the handle, equal parts for support and intent before she pushes down on it. Oh. Okay, I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. Rose blinks awake, sleep blearing away in her eyes as she tries to make sense of the scene around her. She's in the rail cart, that much is obvious. She's tethered to the back right next to Violet, and in front of her was another person. Okay. It won't be a stylish marriage. No, they couldn't possibly be a person. Whoever they were, not when they floated there plainly, hair astray and hole straight through the chest. They were an utter juxtaposition of the ethereal and mechanical, a silhouette of steel, sleek chrome and smooth oscillating gears. They were dressed in white, fit in a dress that billowed around them in the atmosphere, the fabric skimming across the surface of space. For a moment, Rose thought that they were seated, but no. Their legs were simply crossed as they drifted above the ground. Their hands weaving in and out of their hair in stuttered motions. The ends of their body are fading, Rose realizes, their fingernails only visible through the bits of hair catching around the motions. All of it framed the gaping hole that sat squarely in the center of their chest. Rose stares, and she can see the other side of the cabin, clear as day. They completely defied understanding. If someone told Rose this was an alien, she'd believe them. If someone told Rose this was an angel, she'd believe them too. I can't afford a carriage, but you'll look sweet upon the seat. But of one thing, Rose was absolutely certain. They're really pretty. Of a bicycle built... Who the hell are you? Rose snaps back into focus as Violet swings at the figure. The arc is slow through space, and the figure dodges easily, sidestepping the attack by gracefully twisting through the air. It half seemed as though they were dancing. That was quite rude. But reasonable, I suppose. No, if anything, it's probably the right response to meeting an unknown figure in space, but no matter. All that means is that I should take time to introduce myself. I am the first and only model of the Daisy line, the distributed artificial intelligence for scientific yield. Though, in my opinion, I think the full version of my name is simply a rather convoluted way to justify the acronym for Daisy. Their words hang in the air for a tepid moment, silence punctuated only by the steady hum of the rail cart's progress and the occasional thump as it coasts over a piece of debris. Rose can do nothing but stare back at them, glancing over at Violet as her mind reels. She, too, seems in a similar state of shock, fingers twitching uselessly in the air. Finally, Rose breaks the silence with the only question she can muster. It's an AI? Daisy smiles, and it shoots right into Rose's chest. If Violet's smiles are akin to a cup of tea, then Daisy is the whole boiling kettle. In the simplest of terms, yes. Though I'm not an it. You may see me as you wish, but my creator was kind enough to insist that I am not a thing. Okay. Alright, sure. What's with the nursery rhymes? Violet's kicked back into action, her hands now gripping her tethers with renewed ferocity. Already, Rose sees the gears in her brain whirring to life behind her goggles. And more importantly, you better hope that you've got a good explanation as to how you slammed your way into a sealed and pressurized rail cart. Daisy, to their credit, just tilts their head. The song I was singing was not a nursery rhyme. I found it fitting, both to help you in your slumber and also as an introductory piece upon meeting me. I hope it worked out well. As for how I got here, I assume your presence reactivated my protection and guidance protocols. It has been an extremely long time since anything organic has been down here. In the past, that, combined with the intense structural damage that the moon has received, had me judge that it was best if I went into hibernation until my services were required again. My actual resurgence within your rail card itself was probably... seems to be something I do not have an explanation for. Apologies. Violet's eye twitches. Rose doesn't need to look over to know that that's the case because she's sucking in the air through her teeth in the same way she always does when it twitches. You actually expect us to believe a bullshit explanation like that? Whether you choose to believe me or not does not change the truth that I have simply stated fact. I woke up to the sight of both of you asleep, after re-establishing a connection with the station and catching myself up on the logs of what had occurred since I last slept. It was thoroughly updated on the situation. Besides, watching the both of you rest was comforting to me. I suppose there's a convenient reason as to why we never happened to hear about you before. Daisy's eyes flicker onto their suits. You two are simply maintenance workers, correct? My existence is highly proprietary. Unfortunately, I doubt that you would have had much reason to be briefed on the matter. However, given the extenuating circumstances, revealing myself to you is certainly the best option. And it is not as if there is much of a legal system to bring any sort of justice-filled hammer down on us on space, is there? Are they telling a joke? Regardless, what I come to you with is simply an offer. Daisy extends their hands to the side. Their figures seem so fragile, their smooth form pushed against the whirring pieces of the machinery around them. If you will allow me, I would like to complete my purpose as a guide. Please allow me to aid your journey to the moon's core. I am well equipped to... Not a chance. Violet's already turned on her heel, or at least has done so to the best of her ability in zero-G, and has made her way over the railcart's controls, her fingers tapping away rapidly at the screen. Daisy turns, face folded in a frown. Rose glances between the two of them, hesitating before awkwardly waving down Daisy and floating over to Violet. Hey, I know this is really strange, but wait, what are you doing? The hell does it look like I'm doing? Her fingers are moving quickly, shoving through thick metal keycaps and buttons. Rose can't help but wince at a particularly violent press. She hisses through her next few words as if the quiet will make a difference when Daisy's but a few feet from them. Trying to find some way to disable it. If it's really just something mechanical, then we can easily... Wait. You want to... Come on, Rose. It's not like we can kill something that was never alive. But, She's silenced by a dry look from Violet, but pushes forward. What if we go through with it and it's a mistake? What if they're not dangerous? I mean, Daisy could help us, couldn't they? And do you believe that? It's a machine, Rose. We're in the middle of a mess that we barely understand ourselves. We can't afford to rely on random, unseen variables. Not even a supposedly benign, outdated AI. But what if that's wrong? Violet turns to face Rose, goggles glinting ominously in the harsh artificial lights of the cabin. Her gloves, stained for months without a wash, grip Rose's arms tightly. Yeah, this is doing such a good job of defining these character voices. I've been reading a comic where you're like aggressively supposed to hate one of the main characters, and like root against him at every choice. This has a lot of the same vibe. We can't afford to be wrong, Rose. This thing could be dangerous. And if we're wrong, well, the implications hang in the air, as potent as the stale, recycled air they've been breathing in for weeks. Rose swallows hard as Violet lets go. Returning to the console, Besides, why are you rooting so hard for them anyhow? Because I believe them. Sure. Or, I want to believe them. Violet glances from the console in disbelief. Are you insane? Like, actually, genuinely, certifiably insane? Rose, unsure of how to respond, simply shrugs. She can feel Violet's intense gaze on her, raking over her from head to toe, searching for something. Well, for one, they've made no aggressive moves towards us. They've just been singing and talking, and you're willing to risk our lives on a song and a smile. No, I'm willing to risk it on the chance that we're not alone up here, Vi. That there's someone or something else who might know about what's up here. I think letting that chance fly by us is kind of stupid. She lets her gaze fall on Daisy, who floats aimlessly nearby. Their soft voice hums the remainder of the song they'd been singing earlier. Aren't you the stupid one for trusting a random thing that just waltzed its way into our cart without us knowing? We still don't even know how they got in here, inside of a pressurized, sealed container. Doesn't that seem a little odd to you? Doesn't that raise at least a few red flags? I mean, when you say it like that, sure, it doesn't sound stupendous exactly, but that's because it's not stupendous at all. Seriously, how can you even consider this? Rose breathes through her nose. I mean, it's kind of awful, but realistically, even if Daisy is a bad thing rather than a good one, is there much we can do about it? Do we have the resources or skills to fight something we don't even understand? Violet's fingers slow, then hover over the dashboard. Rose can't see her face. Besides, do you really subscribe to that evil robot takes over the world crap? Seriously? Point of order. That it's literally this song that Hal sings to itself in 2001. I've actually not seen that movie because I'm uncultured. But come on now. Rose reaches out to touch Violet's hand, then draws back. No, that'd be weird now, wouldn't it? She opts instead for a chaste pat on the shoulder, nudging her as playfully as she can. Come on. I know it's not ideal, but I don't think anything about this situation is, right? Okay. Whatever. I don't trust Daisy, but if you want to, well, I'll give them a chance. But if anything happens, we'll handle it. Her breath is fervent. Violet clicks her tongue. We'll handle it. Violet turns around, thumbs in her jacket pockets, and Daisy doesn't snap to attention per se, but certainly looks up. Violet rolls her head on her neck, and when she speaks, it's like she's pulling teeth. We're in a pressing enough situation. So if you really are who you say you are, the help would be much appreciated. Though I'm sure you alone won't be the difference between whether we manage to fix it or not. Daisy claps their hands together. Oh, how joyous! But you are right, my presence will likely not make a terribly drastic difference. As Daisy, my role is to assist you. I certainly do not have capabilities on the level of humans when it comes down to it. But if you do not manage to fix the heart, then my job is to make sure that you do not suffer. Violet's lips press into a thin line. Something that Rose notices about Daisy pretty quickly is that they're best seen in her periphery. Normally, if Rose looks at Daisy too long, static forms in her vision. Daisy's hair skips and jumps and stutters, and Rose needs to dig her palms into her eyes in order to get the feeling out. She tries staring for longer one time, for a full minute of direct, unblinking contact, and feels like she's been biting a seatbelt in summer. When Rose sees Daisy in her periphery, she can count every single hair on their head. The static their hair trails off into sorts itself out almost. Dark splotches reach an end and their fingers leave behind something in the space they were in. She could imagine placing her hands through it if she was braver. Huh? She pauses, catching herself on the thought. That was kind of... whatever. More important things to focus on. She shakes her head, pushes herself into her work. The area ahead has started to deteriorate, bits of lunar rock floating throughout the air in front of them. For the most part, it's not a problem, but occasionally there's a piece of debris that's just a bit too big and worrisome to speed on through. So long as they slow down the cart in time and bump the debris softly, it's fine. But it certainly requires a person actually at the wheel to make sure that they do so. Violet sleeps in the back as they take shifts, but Daisy, ever awake, keeps Rose company. They do not speak a lot. They'll cut in with the occasional question, sure, but they're mostly content to watch the two of them work. The most they interjected with was a comment of concern on their navigation system, but Violet dryly pointed out that an update had been implemented while Daisy had been hibernating, and they had nodded and stepped back graciously. What's that? Like their face, Daisy's voice reminds Rose of radio static. It's all too similar to the rapidly degrading quality of the transmissions they've been getting, just with louder static to keep pace with the newfound clarity of their voice. Biggest difference is that Rose actually likes Daisy's voice. Oh, this? It's a rover console. Rose angles the object towards Daisy's visage, revealing an intricate panel of switches, buttons, and a small joystick. The once shiny surface is smeared with dust, some switches flickering uncertainly under the dim lighting. Violet and I found it in one of the abandoned control rooms. There are a few dozen similar ones just lying about, and they're always pretty reliable for salvageable parts. Figured that since we're not sure exactly what we'll need down there, it was worth bringing along to scrape through during the drive. Daisy seems to be half listening, tilting their head as they scrutinize the object. Interesting. It has been long enough since I saw one of those that I couldn't quite recognize it. When I was first born, rovers all needed to be controlled directly by passengers or an automated service. Long-distance communication was still quite an emerging technology, which made my birth quite a feat. I've said something that has made you uncomfortable. Apologies. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I find it important that I do pay a sizable amount of worry to any concerns that you might have. The way they would say they were born is weird. They're not human or anything, but never mind that then. What have you found so far? Rose shrugs, her hands returning to fiddle with the panel. Not much. Most of this seems fried, but the joystick seems functional enough. Which is nice, actually. Most of the joysticks we've gone through have their tops busted or something, so they kind of hurt to use. That is annoying. It is. She swallows awkwardly. dislodging the joystick from the rest of the module before putting it all to the side. Daisy reaches out to grab at it, and Rose gives pause. You do not need to flinch away or anything like that. I was simply interested in learning more about it. Rose doesn't move. But if you would like to keep it to yourself, then I can respect that. Sorry. Rose goes quiet as she works, the air of the cabin filled with pervasive silence, only broken by the occasional intrusive clink of debris hitting their vehicle. She half turns to look at Daisy, finding herself doing so more and more often, not to get a better view of them, but rather despite it. Daisy seems busy with her own thoughts, eyes on the console that Rose had abandoned. They keep their hands to themselves, sometimes lowering their head just far enough for their hair to brush against the tool before bringing it back up again, all in one smooth motion. Rose swallows and looks back at her own work. Her fingers thumb along the thinly engraved markings on the dashboard, pausing at a small quarter-sized dial. She hesitates, then turns it, the ridges on the side cold against her fingers. There's something gnawing at the back of her head. It's like when you've just noticed that you have something stuck between your teeth, but you can't get it out. It's like when you're trying to remember the tune of a song you found catchy, but you can't remember exactly how it went. It's like when you're trying to call for someone, but you don't remember their name, and it's awkward if you ask, because you've known them for far too long. It's a nearly bearable pain that isn't exactly pain, just unpleasant enough to make her feel like she's losing her mind. Her chest has felt sore, for one thing. It's felt kind of sore ever since she found out the heart wasn't beating anymore, and it got harder for her to breathe. But this is a different kind of soreness. A soreness that she doesn't really feel like she's ever been familiar with in her life. Or, if she has, she hasn't been able to articulate it. Isn't that weird? Feeling something your entire life and not being able to articulate it? There's no reason for such a thought to bring itself to the forefront of her mind, but suddenly it's all Rose can think about. Like it's been dredged out of the recesses of her head, thick and foreboding and so terribly there. Please, can it all just... Hey, Rose? Can it be quiet for a second? What's on your mind? Because when she's in high school, she tries to run away. Or really, that's a bit of an exaggeration. She's staying at the hotel just 7 blocks down from her house, counting out soda-stained bills for the sleepy bellboy across the counter. One night here cost the same as a week's worth of work, and that's not because the hotel was considered expensive. He doesn't even double-check her math. You're on the 2nd floor, 4th door on the right, he says, sliding her a key that reads R202. She opens the door, smells the cheap plastic of the fake exposed beams that ride the perimeter of the ceiling, and almost finds herself regretting it. This is a waste of money, and time, and energy. You're going to need to deal with so much shit when you get home. They're going to ask where their daughter... She flubs up and bites her tongue even though she hadn't been speaking, and spends 20 minutes nursing the tenderness on cotton cushions that she's only half sure were washed between occupants. She's just feeling sorry for herself besides. In 20 more, she's laying eagle spread on the sheets, blowing raspberries at the ceiling and bored out of her mind. The romantics of it seems so much more appealing after a blow-up argument over a dress. Seriously? It'd been a dress? Why couldn't she have not have had a knee-jerk reaction for once? Ugh. Hands on either side of the wall as she'd had her dramatic shower moment. Or maybe she'd dim the lights and be silhouetted against the hotel's windows. But for now, she just lay there. After all, when you're in a cheap-ass hotel room by yourself, what the hell are you gonna do? Homework? Honestly, that isn't the worst idea. She drags herself off, sweat picking up clumps of cotton from the sheets and sticking to her skin. It's gross, but romantics aside, she doesn't actually feel like making her way to the bathroom right now. Rose likes doing schoolwork. It's straightforward enough if she just manages to get her mind in order enough to actually read the right words on the page. She can figure most things out. There's a right answer for most things, or at least a passably right one, and a limited amount of factors to consider. Perhaps most importantly, she does not need to consider herself for any equation. Two balloons of equal mass m and equal charge q are tied to opposite ends of a string. Assume the balloons act as point charges so you can use Coulomb's law. She chews at the end of her pencil, worrying the eraser between her teeth before jotting down an answer. The fan above buzzes on, ever plasticky. Hey. She doesn't so much startle as she does look up lazily, half expecting to hear a follow-up knock from some room attendant at the door, but she doesn't. That's odd. There's something about that sticks in her head weird. Something about how this feels a little bit different than how a memory, but how can it be a memory if it's happening right now in front of her eyes? Dumbass. Should go. But the worry washes over her as if it never had existed. Hey, Rose, look over here. Jaff turns, not exactly certain what she expects to see. Blank bed, certainly. Logically. There's Daisy. Is it not somewhat sad to run away from home just to do homework? They're sitting at the edge of their bed, ankles crossed and hands folded neatly on their lap. A little, I guess. Daisy stands up and embraces her. Daisy cups her chest, her waist. Rose's heart sticks deep in her chest as Daisy's hands hover all over. When they look at her, they aren't looking at any part of her body except her face. And though that's made Rose prone to looking away in the past, she finds that she's able to keep the gaze, and keep it, and keep it, and keep it, until Daisy tugs on her and they fall on the bed together. They don't do anything. There's nothing to do beyond lazily flipping through the channels on the CRT screen, stuffed inside a shelf, ever precarious between the stacks of board games and DVDs that surround it. Half-drawn curtains cast geometric shadows on the stained walls, and the room that once felt so cheap now borders on something close to charming. There's a space documentary going on about Nova's founding, because of course there is. It's interesting, and Rose gets to ramble about it because she's seen it a dozen times already, and because Daisy's nice enough to let her talk, because Daisy's just nice in general. You seem to know a lot about this sort of thing. Huh? Oh, yeah, I guess. It's not weird, is it? No. Well, yes. The only people who knew so much about this area are nerds, after all. Wow. Sorry, I was just joking. I am glad that you have something you like so much. She tries not to care, but the validation feels good in Rose's chest. Man, you're good at this. Good at what? Come on, you know. Just saying things that are kind of nice. I do not think this is something to be good at. That's something you can just say. It is not that complicated. Heh. There are 1,000 things that are not that complicated, but that are so complicated that it makes Rose feel nervous. It is more complicated to think about what her body is doing than to conceptualize the absurd amount of distance between just the moon and Earth. It is more complicated to think about what Daisy is doing here than to wonder at the fact that half the stars Rose sees at night burned out 1 billion years ago. She really wants Daisy. She really wants Daisy in a way that isn't lovely. Rose stills as Daisy reaches for the cavity in her chest, where she wants there to be a cavity in her chest. It's not fair. What's not fair? That Daisy's here, that they can touch their body with their own? That's certainly a factor, but it doesn't even begin to scrape at the why of it all. After all, something can only be unfair if someone's being wronged. Whether it be for the case of perception or actuality. And what's there to be unfair about with an AI? Apples to oranges and all that. Frankly, if someone started wishing they had all the instantaneously insane abilities of a machine, it was a sign that they needed therapy, stat. But it's not for any ability or skill that Daisy has that Rose feels her throat puncture. No, there's something more fundamental. A state of being, in the literal sense, that gets her wanting. She looks at Daisy's fingers, artificial and so distinctly inhumane, that surely there wasn't a single person on the moon who could mistake them for someone else's. Daisy, why are you here? Why is Daisy here? Who do you think I am, Rose? Answer me honestly. What do you want me to be? It's a stolen moment in time, and Rose doesn't need to think. Rose doesn't need to think. About her body, about Violet, about her body. The dream ends. Rose wakes up with the painful reminder that her hand is still empty and brows are still itchy when you haven't changed out of them for a good 2 days. She starts half fantasizing before, well, what the hell was that? Daisy's sitting in one of the chairs up front, fairly preoccupied in a conversation with Violet, the latter of whom seems fairly determined to end said conversation as quickly as possible. They catch Rose's eye and they wave at her. Rose tries to act as normal as she can as she half waves back, cringing on herself all the while. That wasn't normal. That was firmly unnormal, quirky and different and atypical, and not a dream she thought she could even have. You don't just dream about the pretty little robot you met that day and think about the two of you laying next to each other and about them rubbing their hands down your chest and... Okay. Right? So I'll be honest, this is not like typical fare for me, and like Dojin games and stuff like that is something where I don't have like quite the language to be maybe as like academically critical as I can be with like interactive fiction, where I can like, okay, take a look at craft and things like that. I'm curious in the same way that I was with like that game Valhalla. I'm really curious about like the intent of the author and like what are we trying to say here? Other than trying to write, you know, a super cute character and a kind of hard-ass other character and wanting to bonk robots, which, hey, so say we all, I guess. She holds her head in her hands, her hair drifting around her in a frazzled halo. It's a stupid stress dream. Things get weird when you're stressed. And Daisy is the first new person I've talked to in well over a year, so of course they're in my head. It's weird, but it's whatever. It's whatever. Besides... Oh. Good morning, Rose. Violet's looking stressed as she greets her. Well, she always looks stressed. Has ever since the Earth decided it didn't need the moon tied to its waist, but the crease in her brow is more pronounced than normal. It's off-putting. Good morning. I hope you slept well. Vi? You good? She looks up at Rose and looks through her rather than at her. It's a scattered look that constantly finds something to refocus on, her eyes jittering through selection and selection. And it doesn't make Rose's stomach feel any better, to say the very least. Vi, look at me. Violet's gaze tracks to something on Rose's face finally. Maybe it's her nose or the pimple that started forming right under her lower lip or something, but it's no longer tracking wildly. She actually sees Rose now. Ah. Hi. Everything all right? You seemed out of it. Yeah, sorry. I guess I got a little nostalgic for a second there. Sorry about that. Then, as if the moment had never happened, Violet pulls herself up, giving herself a light slap on the cheeks. Anyway, it's, no big deal. We've got work to do, yeah? And Violet is right, so Rose doesn't question her further. She says it's no big deal, then it probably isn't. It must be hard. If I was human, I do not think I could fathom the anxiety. Rose and Violet jerk their heads up in sync as Daisy breaks the silence, whose face remains permanently and utterly serene. Excuse me? Being away from Earth for so long, don't you get homesick? Well, obviously, it sucks, and it's stressful as hell. Violet goes back to tending the interface. She pauses. She looks more thoughtful of Daisy's question than Rose has come to expect. But I'd say homesickness is the least of our worries, right? The moon itself is fine. Great even. There's a reason we were sent up here. The whole Chapt aspect sucks. It's as if... She clamps her own mouth shut with an audible click of her teeth, turning to Daisy with a visible twitch of her eye. Then with a huff, she jerks her chin away. If that is the case, then you two must really love the moon. I have to say, that's incredibly flattering and admirable. Finding such care for an inhospitable environment that fails to share that care for you. Daisy seems to muse, clasping their hands together. It isn't nearly that deep. The moon's not exactly capable of emotions on account of being, not alive. So I don't take it personally. It doesn't love me, but it doesn't hate me either. But you prefer Earth. Well, duh. Earth's the only place I know that lets cup ramen taste as good as it does. So if the moon served you cup ramen that tasted good, you would like it more? Look. Bella lets go of the tool that she's been tinkering with in midair, letting it float haphazardly. Like I said, it isn't that deep. I just miss my home, that's all. And the moon is fine, but it isn't my home. Violet goes back to tinkering, and Daisy's gaze swivels onto Rose. And you? And me? Is the moon your home? Or is there something that you wish was different about it as well? Well, I do like the moon. Always have. I thought it was really pretty as a kid. But you have a butt there, correct? If Rose took the time to be honest about it, the one thing that she really didn't like about the moon was the smell. Everything else she could and had learned to live with. How her hands stung when she over-sanitized, which was often. How the food was tasteless at best and clung to her teeth regardless. Even how insanely annoying and humiliating it was to go to the bathroom. But the smell was sterile and itched at her nose. It was artificial and empty and never stopped being the exception rather than the norm, uninteresting as the breath of the satellite's smell palette tended to be. She'd take anything from Earth at this point. Coffee shops and garbage bins alike would be a luxury to her nose. Anything but the chemically and near vomit-inducing feeling that she's found herself tied up in here. But what would be really nice, honestly? Something that definitively set itself down as Earth. School fields smell like dirt. They smell like grass too, but a lot of the time it would be a little too hot or a little too cold, and the grass would have had right enough of that, dying and painting the ground in a shriveling, scentless yellow stain. No, what was far more reliable was dirt. When Rose was little, she thought brown sugar and dirt was all the same stuff. She shoveled it into her mouth the first chance she'd gotten when her parents' backs were turned, coughing pebbles out her teeth just as quickly as she'd stuff them in there. In her defense, it seemed like a worthwhile experiment. If it was all the same, she'd be surrounded by a near infinite supply of treats. She told this to someone once. And do you really believe that? There are security cameras poised on the field, sure, but Rose knows the blind spots. Everyone at school knows the blind spots. That's why every other week they find used Johnnies, and there's a broken announcement over the intercom that everyone ignores. Well, not anymore, obviously. She has to raise her voice a little higher than she's comfortable with at this time of night. It's not if there's anyone around there to hear it, but still, never mind. Are you ready or what? Of course. I'm waiting on you after all. This person. She bites back her retort by swinging up the metal bat behind her. You seem to be really worked up. There's no need for that, you know. I'm not going to judge you purely on your ability to play baseball. You can calm down. Just throw it. Okay? Daisy laughs. I'm going to throw it really hard, all right? If you are not careful, it might smack you in the head. As if I'd ever miss. The metal bat is cool against the rapidly drying sweat on the nape of her neck. Daisy laughs, light and tinkly, and rolls her arm back to pitch. It's all familiar. Her muscles respond in a way that her mind still fumbles with. Automatic, drilled in by countless afternoons in this exact spot. Her eyes narrow at Daisy's raised arm. Ready or not? The ball arcs through the air. It's a blurred streak of white against the dusty sky. It's a perfect pitch. Rose swings. It's the purest moment, just before contact, where it feels like the world has held its breath. The bat connects with the ball in a solid smack. Tink. Her arms vibrate with the aftershock, and Rose can feel it all the way down to her spine. There's a split second of disoriented silence as the ball disappears into the night, before the sound of its impact against a distant chain-link fence shatters the quiet. Rose drops the bat, satisfied and panting. Well, how's that? Daisy's back is turned. Their hair drifts around despite the lack of breeze. Despite the darkness and distance, Rose can make out every strand. They're framed by the moon, basically spotlit by its light. Rose lets out a silent prayer of thanks to the moon. Well, I would say good job, but someone needs to get it now, right? And good luck searching for something that small in this kind of darkness. So really, all you've done is cut our playtime short. Are you serious? In a real game, that'd be a home run. True enough. However, this is not a real game, so that was just kind of annoying. Daisy's back remains turned, and though Rose can make out the hint of laughter in their voice, all she can feel is ticked off. Come on, are you serious? She starts running toward Daisy, feet thudding against the ground. Daisy turns then, and their eyes meet. In the glow of the moonlight, they're sparkling, alight with mischief. Rose tries to stop, but she stumbles over her own feet, tumbling headfirst into Daisy. Daisy yelps as Rose crashes into them. Good night. Both of them toppling onto the grass. Thanks for hanging out. The coolness of the dirt is almost It's a shock against Rose's skin, and for a moment, she's all too aware of the thud of her heart in her chest. Of her chest. Rose's knees scrape across the ground. Daisy's breathless. Oops. Beneath her. Oh, wow. You've got my dress all dirty, it seems. Huh. Who wears a dress on a baseball field? Well, you certainly have got me there. I'll give you that. The moon is beautiful. Daisy is beautiful. If Rose was braver, then maybe she could have said something here. She would have told them how good they look right now, about the strange fluttering in her chest, about their laugh. But she isn't. I'm sorry about the dress. Her voice is quiet, barely audible against a backdrop of crickets. She moves to stand, to untangle herself from Daisy, but a hand on her arm stops her. It is okay. I do not mind terribly. Next time, I promise I'll be more careful. It's not a big deal, Rose. It's just a dress. Their tone is so matter-of-fact that Rose can't help but smile. Yeah, well, it's not just that. Oh, is my dress not just a dress? Rose cannot answer, not when she remains on top of Daisy, her hands poised on either side of her and her jealousy thrumming up in her throat so badly she thinks she might puke all over them. You have a dress, but you're not a... She doesn't know how to say it without sounding like a complete asshole. She doesn't know how to explain that Daisy fills her up with feelings that are ugly and border more on jealousy and longing than a pure-hearted maiden love. She doesn't know how to say that she cannot consolidate the idea of leaving from and loving a maiden in a way that does not feel nauseating. No, I mean, you're right, but like, you say that now, but what if it was your favorite dress? Daisy laughs again, the sound echoing around them, melding with the symphony of the night. Rose can't smother the chuckle that arises in her throat at that. Well, then, I guess you would owe me a new... Hey! Violet's grabbing at her shoulders, all but shaking her awake as Rose blinks blearily into focus, the delusion slipping away like sand. Rose, you... Okay, alright. She's threading her hand through her bangs, breaths coming out in short bursts. That wasn't a dream for you, right? Or like, not a normal one. I mean, you were seeing something, right there and then, right? Just like... She clamps her mouth shut, words lost in mild gestures. It takes Rose a moment to register her words, but she nods. Violet's eyes light up in panicked recognition. I wasn't the only one who saw something, right? Last time, and this time too. There's been something ever since you. And with that, she spins around the Daisy's ever-innocent, billowing figure. They hover in mid-air, hands tucked neatly behind their back. Since you showed up, we keep drifting off like this, daydreaming into nothingness, putting the whole ass mission at risk. It's you, isn't it? Yes, it is. Don't you dare try to... She stumbles, mentally coyoteing in the air as Daisy accepts the allegations without protest. You admit it? Well, yes, my presence does help others fully realize thoughts and feelings of their own. It is not exactly causing daydreams, however. A better descriptor would be guiding you to introspection. At times like this, I believe it to be a beneficial process. Violet looks like she might explode. Beneficial. You think distracting us in the middle of a mission is beneficial? She punctuates her outrage with wild gesticulations. Rose, still groggy, watches the exchange with a numb sort of fascination. Don't you realize how dangerous that is? We could fall into one of your daydreams mid-mission, and then what? We'd die. We'd be stuck in nowhere land with our hands on, say, an oxygen trigger, And before we could do a thing about it, we'd be slipping our hands and unsealing the cart, and absolutely deader than a doornail. I can assure you in full confidence that I would make sure such a thing does not happen. I have enough expertise in these areas to make sure that such daydreams would not hit you in any moment less than is completely safe. And I don't want you messing around with my damn head. Violet's chest heaves, panic rising rather than settling. One hand remains crossed over Rose's body, and despite the circumstances, she can't help but feel somewhat touched. When put like that, I can understand your concern. My intention is not to disrupt, but to help. However, I can better control it if that's what you prefer. Their admission does nothing to soothe Violet. She seems almost ready to lunge at them, but Rose intercedes, placing a steadying hand on her arm. It's okay, Vi. Let's just take a breath, okay? Violet gives her a quick, searching look before letting out a long sigh, nodding. Okay, Rose. For you, but I don't want this happening again. Understand? Daisy simply nods. Compared to Violet's barely suppressed turmoil, they're the picture of serenity. They're a little over 1,600 kilometers in when the rail cart can't continue anymore. The line it runs across is warped, not beyond recognition, but certainly beyond use. The magnetic clamp straining to gain foothold before biting the dust. It's probably best that we don't push it much further. If we do, we run the risk of not being able to start the rail cart back up again. I don't think we'll stand a chance making it back up without it. Rose appreciates Violet's optimism that that'll happen. Good spacesuits. Abandoning the rail cart means fully donning their suits. Rose pulls them out of their containers, handing Violet hers. She nods curtly. Daisy peers over Rose's shoulder, but makes no comment on the matter. Somehow, that makes Rose self-conscious. Hey, give her room. It's fine. They're just curious, aren't they? I don't think there's any harm in their looking. As they finish, Daisy clasps their hands together, leaning over in the air till they start turning. Very sophisticated, I must say, if a bit dusty. Daisy's gaze tracks over the suit, drifting closer. Though, Rose, I do not believe that yours fits you very well. Seriously, how the hell am I supposed to respond to that when they're this close? I mean, we literally had them sized for us, so that's plainly not true. Daisy's finger traces over the rim of Rose's outfit, then pulls away. You know better than I. Before Rose steps outside, she holds down one of the buttons on the arm of her suit. After a moment, the rockets under her feet start up. At this depth, if there isn't something holding them back from the pressure, they'd likely crumble completely under the weight of things. Ready? All that looks back at Rose when she glances at Violet is nearly an inch worth of glass. It looks back at her, and then, with force, it pulls back the door. There's a moment of resistance, a stubborn reluctance from the door before it finally gives way. With a jolt, the pressurization seal breaks, the telltale hiss of escaping air filling their ears. The rail cart gives one last heavy whir as the door grinds against it, the lunar dust that had accumulated over the passing days sweeping inside. And then the door hangs open. It's so quiet. With the rail cart stopped and the heart broken, the tunnel is deafeningly silent. All that was left was a gaping maw of darkness beyond the threshold of the cart, an invitation to the unknown. Huh. So we're like 2/3 up on the thermometers? Interesting. Rose is reminded that she's scared. Well, off to it then. So she says, but she's not moving, is she? Oh, you need me to guide you to, do you not? Apologies. I should take better care to consider this sort of a thing. Daisy glances at Rose, smiles, then floats through the exit with a gentle beckon. Rose swallows and follows, a step ahead of Violet. When she looks back, Violet's already pulling herself through the door. The path ahead is cloaked in darkness, marked only by the occasional flicker of damaged lights. The flashlights attached to their suits feel more like a demerit at times, illuminating fragments of shadows that only seem to further pull at Rose's imagination. Beyond a few feet in front of them, it seems to get completely swallowed whole. With her senses limited, it's hard for Rose to distinguish how narrow the tunnel actually is. All she can feel under her hand is the weave of lunar stone and wire that make up the wall, and all she can see in front of her are the ever-faint forms of Violet's suit and Daisy's silhouette. She can't even make out the presence of any echo, with the suits keeping Violet's murmured instructions close in her ear. For all she knows, the rest of the space around her could be a cavernous expanse reaching far above her. Sometimes, she almost finds her leg crashing into the skeletal remains of some long-dormant excavation tool. Violet will give her a sharper warning, and Rose's rocket will thrum, hoisting her higher over the object till any chance of friction is long out of sight. With pressure as intense as this, quite literally pressing in on them from all sides, a careless bump threatens to be something far more serious. The darkness certainly feels oppressive to match. Rose swallows thickly. The tunnel's failed lighting system half flickers, giving the illusion of visibility before throwing the atmosphere around them into further opacity. Rose, how's it going? Oh, I guess it's going. Whoops. That's the sort of thing some people say when they don't want to answer with something depressing, like, I'm actually doing incredibly shit, thanks for asking, right? She's trying to lighten the vibes, so she must be really, really out of her element. Good thing I'm not some people, then. Heh. The tunnel seems to stretch on forever. Every flicker of the lights from their suits brings another wave of shadows dancing along the tunnel, flashing quickly enough that Rose's perception of the walls around them constantly changes with the falling dimness. Rose swallows. Come on, just keep your eyes on Violet's back. Violet's back is solid, after all. Rose traces the frame of it with her eyes, blue and firm and solid indeed. The only steady thing in her vision, really. The further they seem to go, the more alien Rose feels in space. Daisy's silhouette is the only thing unaffected by the shadows. They float a few feet ahead of Violet, now guiding them deeper into the darkness. They're seemingly immune to the tricks of the tunnel, moving through the oppressive quiet with an effortless grace. The lights of the tunnel twinkle in and out of view around Daisy. There is a splotch of glowing white against night sky. In a deepness that feels absolutely and utterly surreal, they feel as if they are finally completely at home. After all, where else is a lighthouse supposed to stand than a sea? Now, more than ever, Rose feels distinctly in a tunnel filled with machinery neglected long enough by its creators that there is no longer any use in connecting it to them. It's a little bit suffocating, but there is not much about space that isn't. Violet's working hard. Rose is proud of Violet for working so hard and keeping most of her cool. If Violet wasn't there, there's no way that Rose would be. Not even a chance. They don't let girls like Rose up here that easily, to be frank. People who are smart but dreamed a little bit too much. People who would get too excited and make a mistake. Violet's textbook perfect. Violet's textbook everything. In a way that makes Rose starry-eyed. And if she told her that, she'd probably scoff it off, but it's true. There aren't many people who could lead a group out like this after a year of drifting out in space and stay sane like that. Violet's so beyond Rose. That's probably why she has so much trouble telling her how she feels. And with Daisy. Ugh, and of course there's Daisy. Their figure, usually a peaceful interplay of chrome and soft oscillating gears, morphs before Rose's eyes. They're sitting on the school stairs, feet bare against uneven linoleum tiles. Even though it's undeniably earth, their dress remains forever floating. It's a constant play of things that could happen and things that couldn't, enough to tempt Rose beyond her limit. This sort of thing is unfair. Seriously, when someone looks that pretty... The thought trails off and loses itself. Really, it'd be impossible to expect not to lose it. Not when Daisy stands up, gaze long in their frame outlined by moonlight. Everything looks better in the moonlight, Rose has concluded. In the moonlight, the world transforms from stark reality to something more romanticized, giving everything a fresh, ethereal glow of paint. And in Daisy's case, you said you had something you wanted to say to me? Oh, yeah, She did, didn't she? Sort of? Her brain skitters through thoughts as she tries to land on one that's appropriate. A question. Maybe, are you free tonight? Ha! Rose, it is already the evening and I'm right here. So you can be the one to let me know. Damn, why do you have to make it so difficult? Talking to you. I want to get the words out already, but I can't get them. Her hands fiddle with a string-worn friendship bracelet, the kind that you either make yourself or buy overpriced on the web. Her heart is in her throat. She doesn't exactly know what she wants to say, if she's being honest with herself. It is all right. I think I understand. You do? Rose, I see you enough to understand some things about you. It would be a little silly to not when you spend so much time with a classmate. Oh, that makes this easier than I think. Daisy smiles. It is because I'm like this, right? Daisy gestures at themselves. Rose's brain short circuits. Huh? Rose, the sort of person that I am, I do not want to impose my observations upon you, particularly when you are not entirely certain of them yourself, but I wanted to offer my advice. But I know how you look at me. Suddenly, the atmosphere is terrifying. Rose can feel every hair on her legs stand on end. Daisy takes a step forward. I know that I make you jealous, right? I know that I make you want something that you do not think you can have, right? I know that I make you want to be me, right? I know those things, Rose. But if I am wrong, all you have to do is tell me. I don't mind. I think I would like it better, actually. For your sake, because it would be really sad if what I thought was true. Not because it's not a beautiful thing, but the way that you cannot embrace it. It sounds rather painful, Rose. Rose can't talk. If Rose spoke, she doesn't think she could stop herself from agreeing. But that's insane, right? To want something from an AI? An AI is not human. An AI is inhuman. Even if an AI is every bit as perfect as the moon, they cannot and can never be human. Even if human is every bit as flawed as the moon, they cannot and never be an AI. It's insane trying to get something like that straightened out. Rose's hands rose towards her chest subconsciously. It is okay, Rose. I can sympathize. I wanted much from my creator as well. But the difference was that there was fundamental differing. A gap that could not even thought to be bridged between us. She tried, but when she failed to return, I was afraid that any chance I had was gone. When she failed to return, something inside me... That is not the case with you, Rose. You think that you do not have what it takes, but it is so obvious to me that you are already there. You just do not have the label for it yet. That is okay. That's cruel, you know? You could have just said no. You should have. Like Fee. If I could have had a choice all that time beforehand, feeling like that. No. There's no wasted time because you don't get it. I want some things, but not in the way you think I do. Okay, I will not push that then. But they reach forward. Rose. Their voices changed. It's eager, enticing, excited. And with it, Rose's vision splinters. It doesn't shatter, but rather split into infinitesimal shards. Rose blinks, and the shards flutter, winking in the celestial glow. Each one of them contains a fragment of Daisy's form, a glimpse of their dress, the starkness of their skin, the pulse of their eyes. They dance around Rose in an orbit of potentiality, painting a chaotic constellation that steals her breath away. There are as many daisies as there are stars, each one a different promise, a different end. In one, they are a mother, their tones soft and lullabies encoded in their voice. In another, they're a commander, their figure standing tall, an unyielding force against the expanse of nothing. In yet another, they're Rose's lover. Their touch is intimate, their skin no longer metallic and cold, but comforting against every fragment of loneliness Rose has ever known. They're taking her letter. They're her high school sweetheart, the person she wanted to hide under the bleachers with after a failed football game. They're pulling her close. They're hiking up her skirt. They're Violet. They're kissing her. They're kissing her. They're kissing her. They're kissing her. Violet's Rose. The shards shatter. The illusion breaks and Rose can hear her breath again. Her breath fogs against the glass, hot and heavy and near suffocating. She had more of a presence around her. Maybe she'd be embarrassed about it. All it does now, though, is block her vision. Daisy? Violet's voice is an octave higher than usual, ringing through Rose's earpiece, a clear indicator that she's, at the very least, not having a good time. Which is frankly silly because the glass clears. Daisy's holding her helmet by the sides, their hands gently cupping the back of her head. Their lips are planted gently on the frame, granting Rose a chaste kiss. Rose doesn't move. Why would she want to move? Daisy, get the fuck away from her right now. With a final lingering touch, Daisy pulls away, their hands retracting from the helmet to rest against their own form. Their gaze, soft and steady, remains on Rose. Apologies if my actions were misinterpreted. I only wish to offer comfort. Violet pushes past them and obediently Daisy makes way. She grips onto Rose's hand fiercely, gaze narrowed as she gives Rose a once-over and then a firm pat on the shoulders. Seriously, what the hell? What the actual hell? Are you okay? Did you... Violet's lips clamp shut. This close, Rose can see past the helmet's glassy sheen and through to her eyes. They're wide. You're fine. That was incredibly weird. But you're okay. Daisy, you fucking promised that you'd be better about this. And look what you did. She's losing her damn mind in a suit in the tunnel. One wrong move, and she could... You see how this is a problem, right? How could you even pretend that this is beneficial? She rubs down Rose's helmet as if to remove any traces of Daisy's touch. Under the moon's pressure, the palms of her hands almost hurt. If this was any other time, Any other place, any other moment, Rose would be losing her mind over this. Gently, Rose tugs back. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. The words leave her mouth, and maybe she doesn't really mean them, but she doesn't not mean them either. Violet looks at her with such an absolutely stunned expression that she regrets them more than immediately, but she said them. She can't not double down. But that was... Seriously, Violet, it was kind of strange, yeah. There's no need to be all up in arms. I know tensions are high, but don't waste your energy over this. She gives Violet a reassuring smile through the helmet's shell. Violet opens her mouth, closes it. Okay, you know what? Whatever. Sorry for caring, I guess. Hey, you know that's not... Whatever. You want to suck face with sci-fi ass sex doll, be my guest. See if I care. I'll be busy saving our lives in the meantime. Any potential fighting words are drowned out by the bile that rises in her throat as Violet twists away, heading through the path ahead with newfound determination. Daisy, ever innocent, floats forward and then to the side. I apologize. That might not have been the best action on my part. No, it's fine. Rose's hand opens and closes, the tips of her glove brushing against her own suit. The path to the core is lighter. Rose is no longer fumbling through her grip every two motions, Violet's instructions coming in faster and shorter barks as she too realizes how close they are. When Rose cranes her neck, she can see the chip plates give way to exposed and colorful wire. Be careful. That stuff's not safe. Yeah, obviously. She bites back snide remarks in favor of wonder as the light really starts to break through. Hello, Roger. It has not been explained. This is, the moon looks beautiful tonight. I think this is the... Yeah. In the long time since she's put 2 feet on actual solid ground, Rose has experienced nothing but the weightlessness of space. Moving around with no real ability to set yourself down beyond forcing yourself certainly creates a feeling of, well, drifting that she'd long grown almost overly used to. But as the light scatters through the tunnel leading up to the core, the pressure Rose slowly feels mounting up begins pounding on her in full force. It's as though her suit has suddenly remembered that it is weight, her body becoming a heavy anchor that pulls her down, then up, then forward. Oh, the thermometers are actually all the way up at the top. They started all the way at the bottom. That's a cool... One of the things that I struggle with visual novels is like judging length, because the writing style is very different than what I'm used to. That's a kind of cool way to just be like, yes, you are making progress in this story. Each attempted step forward feels like she's actually walking again, through a pool of dense, invisible liquid, her legs straining under the force of it all. It's an alien sensation, one she hasn't felt in so long that it's almost as if she's forgotten how to move. Rose? Violet's voice rings clear in her earpiece, a beacon amidst the pressurizing silence that's slowly eating into her mind. Take it slow. Don't push yourself. Yeah. Her acknowledgement is strained, caught somewhere between a gasp and a grunt as she hauls herself forward, the ever-intensifying light drawing her in like a moth to a flame. She's never actually been to the moon's core, obviously. The job of a maintenance worker is to monitor not the heart itself, but the systems relying on it, shooting only cursory glances at the frame should they need to call a specialist at some point or another. But the result of a century's worth of genius had long proven itself stable, and so after its initial placement, everyone found bigger problems to worry about. It's like how you don't think about the air you breathe on Earth or how the sun sets at night. You just live with it, supported by it all, and it's been there since forever. Or a few decades in the heart's case, but that's all the same when you're barely a few decades old yourself. The light veers, breaking through pieces of debris with long and scratchy fingers. It's not harmful by any means, but it hurts after hours and hours of slowly plodding through eye-squinting darkness. Careful. Violet's voice is sharp enough to cause Rose to pull back as a particularly large slice of sheet metal nearly twice her height comes warbling past. It drifts through space before colliding with a much smaller piece of lunar rock. Then, as if some sort of cartoon, it crunches in on itself from the back to the front. Now a spear, far more than a sheet, it slowly continues its trek by somersaulting past. Rose swallows. Let's talk about pressure, right? Not now, Rose. Violet's voice is as tense as always, and as Rose pushes forward, she's all too painfully aware of what that means. Her own stutters come not from nervousness, though she finds that in bucket loads, but the strain that she finds in her throat. In her throat, in her legs, in her head. The suit is not hurting her exactly, it simply restricts her even more so than before. Rose takes a deep breath, and it scares her to realize that it's starting to hurt in a way that it isn't just she's tired. I can't... It's not that she can't move per se, but it's much harder than it was even before. Her arms stick against the inside of her suit, trapped in sickly feeling against their bulkiness. What was once at least a semi-natural movement now feels as if she was pushing concrete to move a finger. Even her tongue feels heavier in her mouth, a notable effort to form words. Violet, though more free in her movements, doesn't seem unaffected by any means. The suits are just pressurizing. We've crossed a certain threshold, so they're taking further effect. It's a bit much, but nothing we can't handle. Rose can hear how forced her smile is, even if she can't see it. Yeah. She can see it now. She can see the exit of the tunnel, the entrance to the core. The light is long broken through scattering and now is just plain daylight, like the kind you see in movies when it's nighttime but the director just really needs you to see for a second. Every piece of metal and plastic is outlined for them in perfect, painful clarity. And around the bend, well, Rose can't see around the bend, but she can see that there is an around the bend. The track comes to an end, one half of the track firmly onto the ground while the other stretches and twirls up into the air and around the bend to the core's entrance. It flies a mere few yards from Rose, reaching away towards the ever-elusive core. At this height, as the tunnel drops down and then out to the core, they need to float across. This is not a terribly hard thing, particularly in space, and Daisy makes their way across without issue, hands teased out to either side. Violet is quick to follow, sailing out across the way before catching herself on the track. Her legs jerk out behind her before settling down smoothly. She's swung just out of view. Rose can't find it within herself to move. She can reach out a bit, but the pressure holds her tightly, not so much cradling her as much as it does remind her of every inch of her traitorous body. I don't think I can handle this one. She chokes it out, and she can't even finish the sentence before Violet looks back. It's okay. It's a bit of a jump. Just try and push yourself off the side, okay? I'll handle the rest. Okay. Swallowing deeply, Rose grips the wall behind her fervently. She bites her lip, pushes forward. Wait. Hey, it's okay. I've got you. Violet, hand wrapped around the warped tendril of the track, reaches her free one out to Rose. Rose can't meet her eyes and she grasps at it, fingers slipping and catching. Violet swings Rose forward, redirecting her trajectory around the corner. It sends Rose so far spinning that she can't really tell what way is forward for a second, and she finds herself turned towards Violet and Daisy. The latter's eyes are utterly neutral, and the former's, through her visor, wide. Violet pops her lips. Huh. Rose's gaze follows Violet's, drifting towards where Daisy floats, ever unfazed by their surroundings. That's pretty impressive. The word seems far, far too small to encapsulate the overwhelming awe that the scene instills, because there, right there, within the celestial bones of the moon, nestled in its very core, resides the heart. An intricate web of crisscrossing metal pathways, useful on Earth but pointless here, led Rose's gaze to it in their wiry and skeletal elegance. The labyrinthine constructs curve and intersect with each other, creating an impression of an infinitely complex vascular system, a pulsating network of veins and arteries, all constructed from the very marrow of the moon's metallic body, reaching out towards the core. Each pathway is adorned with countless wires that snake their way across the surface, a vast network of neural connections. They twist and twirl around the metallic arteries, akin to ivy suffocating the sturdy oak. These wires come in a myriad of colors, some glowing with an ethereal luminescence, casting an otherworldly pallor over the moon's metallic innards. Others blink intermittently, reminiscent of distant stars. The space here hums with an electric energy. It's permeated with a sound that oscillates between a whisper and a roar, even though through Rose's helmet. It's an omnipresent symphony that is as eerie as it is beautiful, the heartbeat of the heart itself, echoing in the vacuum of the moon's core. Everywhere around, pieces of floating debris dance. Suspended, they glide and twirl through the air, whizzing, speeding, and sometimes altogether stopping before shattering into fragments of dust and then reforming once more. From minute fragments of disassembled machinery to lunar stone, each piece of debris adds another piece to the ethereal sight before Rose. And there, in the heart of this whirlwind, lies the heart itself. It is framed by this complex network of pathways and wires, cradled amidst the swirling debris, utterly cold and unmoving. The light that emanates from it makes it nothing but a white hole against a painfully textured background. As if someone had taken a photo and punched it through, or put a scrap of paper over a picture, an utter void of white. It sits there, a silent and broken monarch. It's like a rib cage, Rose realizes. The moon and its core is the heart's rib cage. No, that's not exactly right. My rib cage is the heart's rib cage. We do not need to make up one for the moon in order to supplement the metaphor. Rose is too starstruck to really register what Daisy said at first, and even when she does, the indignation is for a different reason. Oh, did I say that out loud? Sorry, I didn't Excuse me? You are certainly excused, though for what I fail to be sure of. Cut the crap. Violet's voice is thin from the pressure. What? Are you going to throw down some impulsive bullshit? Man, Violet really swears a lot when she gets stressed. I do not understand what about my stating facts can be considered either impulsive or bullshit. The heart is a part of me as I am of it, and as you can see, it's fallen out. I do not possess the capability to re-equip it, or even to repossess it on my own. That would require the help of an external force. I had at least somewhat assumed that you both were familiar with this, but from your reactions, I will assume it's not the case. Yeah, no fucking shit it's not the case. Her anger boils over, tinging her words with a fiery edge that even the chilling pressure of the core couldn't quench. Daisy's calm explanation seems to have hit a nerve, and Rose can't help but flinch at the intensity of Violet's reaction. Vi. Rose, be quiet for a second. Her voice echoes around Rose's helmet, reverberating before being swallowed by the hum surrounding them. Rose is too numb to feel hurt. You. Okay. Alright. Just, not that it matters much anymore, but relay this stuff faster to us, alright? We're supposed to be able to deal with this stuff, and you're supposedly literally manufactured to help us. So being a bit quicker on the draw with any relevant information would be preferred in the future. Thanks. I understand. I apologize sincerely. The moon presses down and around on Rose. The pressure peaks, and with it the small lights inside of her helmet begin to flash rapidly, only adding to the expounding headache that she finds drawing more intensely. She groans, trembling under the weight of it all as it pushes down on her head, her limbs, her chest. Rose can hardly take it. Her heart pounds. With as much precision as she can muster, she uses the propulsion from her suit to create enough resistance that the force of impact between her and the ground is only bruise-worthy instead of bone-snapping. Violet follows shortly afterwards, but Daisy only floats, hovering in space and seemingly unaffected by the near-violent pressure. But is that all we need to do? Pardon? Violet's hand pulls down at her helmet, exhaling sharply through her teeth. Grab the heart and stuff it into your chest. Is that what we're expected to do? It can't be that sickeningly simple of a solution. If you were to generalize the process down to 2 steps, then yes, those are probably the 2 I would go with myself as well. But I hope the potential and obvious complications of the matter are obvious to you. Violet looks at Daisy with as much dryness as she can muster. Complications. Really? For starters, your suit are quite a problem. Huh? Daisy spreads her hands out to the side. You have been feeling it, have you not? How your suits react to this environment? Unable to properly sustain themselves in motion, your suits uphold a unique pressurizing system that ultimately results in your inability to move to any meaningful extent. Even with pressurized thrusters, you cannot hover them more than a few feet up off the ground before your suits, unable to withstand mid-air pressure, begin forcing you back down. And if you resist, the pressure system will likely short-circuit, leading to overheating, power failure, and melting of... okay, I get it. So, can we even... So, is it even possible? If you can't get up there, and we can't get up there, do we think this whole damn trek to the core for nothing? To stop at the heart's finish line? Is that what you're telling me? Her breath, still dangerously thin, heaves through the helmet's speakers. Rose can feel the ground, already unfamiliar under her feet, spin and upheave. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. And stop and heave and spin and stop. I said your suits are the problem. At this depth, at this very core, your suits struggle to begin to understand how to act. You two are maintenance workers tasked with tending to the satellite and any minor hiccups it might encounter. When it comes to dealing with a highly specialized environment, you, or rather your suits, are simply incapable of such a feat. Rose's arm does a whole length twitch. So, our suits are the problem. Alright, what do you propose then? I would like to put the motion... that we take them off? I would like to put the motion forward, yes. It's a proposition so ridiculous it doesn't even register in Rose's head. So, anyway, if you don't have any actual solutions, I think taking off your suits is an actual solution. In space? Taking off your suit in space. An actual, for real, goddamn space. I'll be honest. Out of all the ways I thought you might snap and kill us, this wasn't one of them. I'd think you'd choose something a little less mind-numbingly stupid, at the very fucking least. I would not think to kill either of you in any scenario. Rest assured, this solution is fairly feasible. Launching a human into the vacuum of space and expecting them to not die is fairly feasible. Expecting us to last more than 5 seconds, no 2, with so much as our helmet cracked open, is fairly feasible. The hell is that even supposed to accomplish? Because the only thing I could even fathom to consider is our deaths. So, just putting that out there. I am equipped with a mechanism that allows for your protection by diluting the space around you, protecting you from cosmic radiation and centering what little oxygen is in the air to surround you and keep you alive. When my creator still visited, it was an effective way of... When your creator visited. Alright. Hell, neither one of us even knew you existed before a few days ago. We didn't hear so much as a hint from you from Nova when on Earth. Even when we're not core mechanics, it's a little strange. There wasn't even a whiff of research pertaining to your creation. If you do not believe me, I cannot blame you. It must sound absurd to you. Yeah, that's the understatement of the century. She scoffs and turns away. Whatever. You're no help. Rose, let's discuss this somewhere else. Rose is looking at Daisy. Daisy's everything unknown to her. Obviously, that's scary. It's like the first time she tried learning another language and everything was dizzy and nonsense, organized in such a way that frustrated her, but no one else in the room. Everyone else seemed to know better. Daisy doesn't seem to know better. They aren't dangling some sort of learning experience that Rose needs to work painstakingly towards for some craft to master. They just seem able to offer something to Rose. I'll do it. The silence hides behind static. I can do it. Rose. But you need to promise me. You need to promise me that if I take it off, that I'll be fine. That I'll be safe. You need to promise me that it's worth it, because if it's not, and I like it, and I need to put this damn suit back on, and I need to go back, I won't be able to take it. If the moon can't love me, if I can't be seen the way I want to if I can't be seen the way I want to inside the moon, I swear, She doesn't have a good follow-up or a good threat. Her tongue latches to the top of her mouth again, and she struggles to breathe, cheeks hot and flushed. All she can hear is the repeated static of her own scattered breathing, echoed back at her through the helmet microphone. Is that really how you feel? Rose cannot bear to look up. For such an astronomically unlikely chance, for such an incredibly stupid proposition, you think that taking your suit off for that is worth it. Maybe you think it's stupid, but I don't. Oh, sorry. Sorry that I don't think taking off your suit in space is the brightest thing someone could do. Well, we don't have much of a choice here. We don't have the luxury of being the brightest. This is about survival. Okay, but is it? Is that all your choice is based off of because you really think this is the most survivable option? Violet, please have some self-awareness of your situation right now. Let your friend take off her suit. Rose, this is literally fucking suicide. You can't just jump on the first half plot. No, I'm not even going to call it that. You can't jump on the first stupid idea that falls into your lap. Do you have a better solution? We can barely stand. We can pull ourselves up. On what? She gestures at the space around them. Pieces of debris collide and dissipate. Our hopes and dreams. There's nothing solid here except the ground. And we can't very well go tearing that up without it combusting. Or us combusting. Or... Okay, so if that doesn't work, we'll try something else. But taking off your helmet? Seriously? I know you're head over heels for Daisy, but... Vi. This is me being like, oh my god, Vi. Vi, I like you. I've always liked you, Vi. Daisy is Daisy. But the reason I'm drawn to them isn't the reason that you think. I really, really like you, Vi. Sorry if that's too much, by the way. I know you cut me off when I tried saying it before, so it's selfish of me to say it now, probably, but I guess I just wanted to get it out. And now I have, so... Violet doesn't say anything. Rose can't even see Violet's face, not through her helmet sheen. So, that's that then. It'll be alright, okay? I'll see you in a few. Rose lets herself be pulled away from the platform that she's been standing on with Violet. Underneath the infinite pressure of the core, she finds her legs shake. It's like she's trying to jump on Earth, but forcing herself to stay up in the air with the sheer willpower of her mind alone. And it actually, somehow, works. Daisy helps. They reach their hands out to Rose and she can grip. Violet's fingers brush at the elbow of her suit and she startles. Don't. Rose stops. Violet's at the edge of the platform, heaving over the edge of it. Seriously, you're right. That's so selfish of you. Just saying you like me like that and then forcing me to watch you do something like this. It's so cruel. It's so cruel, it's insane. You can't just... Being up here with you, I don't think there's anyone else I'd rather be trapped up here with. So if you do this... Violet's hands grasp out at Rose's arm, but she stumbles, bouncing off the ground with a sickening thud that Rose can hear even through her helmet. She nearly goes back then. Violet's straining against the pressure, and Rose knows that she can go pick her up, go help her up, but she doesn't think she could turn back if that was the case. Rose. And just like that, Rose's gaze is drawn away and back towards Daisy. The static in her ears grows with each passing moment. But all it does is make Violet grow quieter and quieter in the background. I promise. So are you ready? Yeah. Alright. This will be a bit of myself for you. I hope it is a pleasant feeling. Daisy's hand covers Rose's. Their grip is gentle and cool to the touch, even from under the suit. The sensation spreads, and Rose leans into the touch. It's like when you step into the shower. First you test out the water with your hand, and it's kind of cold and a little unappealing because it's so unlike the rest of your bathroom, but your hand is cleaner. You still need to douse the rest of your body in the water, and then you need to scrub it clean with soap and such yourself, but it spreads quickly, all the way from the tips of her fingers to the ends of her toes and the top of her head, all in one fell swoop that makes her eyelashes flutter and her breath catch. Okay, that's what I wanted, I think. She's barely teasing at it. She's barely able to grasp what it is Daisy is giving her. To fathom that it's okay for her to enjoy a feeling like this. That her body can be something that can feel this nice. That a body that is her own can be something that feels this safe. Daisy draws back and the intensity of the sensation fades, but it doesn't leave. Alright, you should be protected now. The next part you need to do yourself. I can help, but no, it's okay. I've got it. Daisy's smile remains as she pulls away, hovering just a few feet from Rose. Rose's hands settle on either side of her helmet. She breathes in deeply, then, please. Rose looks back. Violet remains stumbled and fallen, pressured too much even for whatever semblance of adrenaline is surely coursing through her veins right now. Rose, don't do this, please. It's spoken from her throat, and Rose can't fully tear her gaze away from Violet's form at that point. Not when she's half parallel to the ground, elbows scraping her up as she makes eye contact with Rose. 2 sets of glass and several yards of empty space void separate them. Rose has never seen her face this desperate. She cannot answer. Rose, we don't know what's going to happen. Not, it's stupid. Not, you'll die. No, Violet's final plea was, we don't know. To be fair, Rose didn't know. She didn't know entirely why she agreed to do this, and she didn't know for certain if she would survive. Hell, this would certainly be in the top 5 dumbest ways to die if someone on Earth caught wind of all this and decided to make a list. Rose swallows. Yeah, it's kinda scary. But I want to do it, so I'll just do it while I'm scared. Violet's voice peeks through the microphone, static filling each inch of space in the helmet. Rose, don't you dare. A soft hiss of air escaping fills the helmet as Rose takes it off. Rose can't hear Violet anymore. It's not like it was something that they needed reminding of. If you're exposed to space, you're dead. That sort of thing was common knowledge, like how swallowing the ocean would cause you to drown. It wasn't something they drilled into you by the time you got to training, because chances were, if you needed a reminder at this point, you probably weren't suited for the program anyway. Very vividly, though, Rose remembers an article that she scrolled through one day that had recapped the process quite succinctly. This may be what one of the content warnings talked about. Just heads up, it might be explicit about this. By the first second, in an instant, your blood starts to froth while your skin starts to crystallize. The air in your lungs is violently expelled. Her vision is blurry at first. All that registers as she blinks rapidly is the cool feeling on her cheeks. It's like in the movies. When there's an explosion, everything's quiet and out of the way. Then your ears start ringing and you realize that there's so much happening. But you're hardly in the space to comprehend it. By the 5th second, with every fleeting moment, a barrage of photons and particles assail your cells, triggering mutations. Far away, Violet's screaming. She's screaming with every ounce of air that remains in her lungs. The speakers from the helmet keep peaking, but Rose has already let it go. It lays suspended in the air, inches away from Rose's fingers. By the 10th second, your body starts to swell, decompressing your cells faster and faster. Rose's chest flutters. It occurs to her for a second that Rose might be dying. Reaching 30 seconds, your tissues are completely devoid of oxygen. Your entire blood circulation system collapses. Violet's screaming. Why is she still screaming? Can't she see that I'm fine? Daisy is in Rose's vision. And then at 31 seconds, you've died. Rose gasps for air. She gets it. It's a little bit thicker and damper than what she's used to, like humidity on the hottest day of the year, but it's air that somehow feels far less suffocating than whatever remained in the center of her suit. She breathes in deeply and she actually, breathes. Now that your helmet is off, the rest of it should be easy. Daisy's voice is clearer than she's ever heard it. Not banging around in the middle of a tin can, not echoing static through her helmet, but clear and through to her skull. It is the kindest and sweetest thing Rose has ever heard. The rest of it. Rose nods tentatively. Daisy's hand reaches around to the back of Rose's neck. The coolness of it seeps through the back of Rose's skull, and with a soft clink she feels it fall away. It pulls down at the rest of the suit, a molting feeling that sucks downwards with an audible noise. It's uncomfortable and freeing, the same way that ripping away an old band-aid is uncomfortable and freeing, because it's been there for so long. She's only been wearing it for a matter of hours, so why? And it hangs, heavy and prescient. Just a little more, and the wrappings unfold. First, the outer layers, covered in stiff plastic and metal frames. With it falls her flashlight, spinning wildly in the dark, her radio, her useless oxygen tank. It hits another piece of floating debris and punctures, implodes, and she can feel the gust it throws out onto her bare face. Then, it's the inner layer, life support, that ranges from temperature control to urination padding. This one peels like an old dead skin. It itches and frays in parts that she no longer has useful, pulling at hair and moles and pimples that she's let form because it's awful hard, to take care of your body in space when you didn't even like it that much. The suit leeches at her arms. It's sticky and thick, like mosquito nets and stained mattress covers in the summer. It screams at the thought of being let go, at being abandoned. And though Rose wants it, needs it off, there is a part of Rose that feels bile rise in their throat as they do so. It's not painful, though. It's bittersweet. Rose folds in on themselves as they let their suit shed itself away. There's no wind in space. As a result, you can still see the very first footsteps left on the moon by those earliest explorers. Sometimes when the sun is out and they're wearing the proper protection, Rose goes out and looks at them through the satellite's window. There's a certain time at a certain angle where the sun casts a shadow and you can make out the remains of prints that never left. But Rose feels something being brushed away now. They finally bring their eyes to open, and out of the corner of their eye. As their helmet floats away, they catch their reflection in a piece of floating debris. They're crying. Oh. They rotate slowly in mid-air, releasing their helmet from their grasp, and no longer hindered by the suit pressurizing systems. Something has changed. Something fundamentally at their core, everything short of molecularly, has changed. Rose, can you hear me? Their voice cuts through space, echoing in the core. It's odd hearing their voice unrestricted by the railcart's shell or the helmet's speakers. Rose blinks. Their eyes are still teary, and they don't think anything of it till they realize that their tears are tracking straight down their face. Rose? Rose turns. Space is something that's been always and fundamentally described as something cold. Forget oxygen. There was hardly anything at all between the solid masses floating inside it, and saying it was freezing was the understatement of a century. But to Rose, as they face Daisy, it feels hot and warm and sticky. It wasn't unpleasant by any means, even if it was strange. It was the sort of heat you felt when you stay on a metal roof on the hottest of summer evenings, palms sweaty and air humid. Rose, you feel better, right? Their hands rest at Rose's waist, hovering slightly before passing on to their chest. Thanks. All right then. Not to ruin the moment, but there is work to be done, is there not? Rose nods tersely, gaze tracking as they glance towards the heart. It sits, presiding over them with a shine that doesn't waver, beautiful and holy as ever. All you need to do is bring it over to me. The rest should be far less complicated. It's just fixing a machine, and you're good with your hands. Rose feels their face flush as they nod again. It's simple, drifting up to the heart. It isn't far. Rose crosses the distance in less than 10 seconds, and they aren't particularly rushing. They pass by chunks of broken railing and lunar rock with ease, occasionally pushing by something before it disintegrates to dust behind them. And all too quickly they reach the heart. Up close, the heart is still beautiful. Wires and plates cover its surface like sinew, the pieces entwined as if they were something natural. With its glow no longer obscuring its edges, it reveals itself as small. Incredibly and almost painfully small, in such a way that makes them almost afraid. The fact that their entire life, the entire moon, relied on something so small and fragile, that this thing, so much as hiccuping, had caused them so much grief. They swallow and reach out to it. Like the rest of Daisy, it's cool to the touch. There's an undercurrent of energy, pulsating with life of its own. They can feel every rivet in its patchwork of a cover, a quiltwork of aluminum, titanium, and steel. As they brush their hands over it, they can make out the familiar Nova logo on its edge. The familiar beat that they had long used to rock themselves to sleep returns with such a gratifying relief that gentle, kind exhaustion washes over them for a moment, and if they could, they would let themselves fall asleep right here and now. This close, they can see the problem. The wires that exude from it have snapped, though not frayed, drops of fluid leaking out in dribbles before falling back upwards. When Rose lets it touch them, it stings gently. They need to untangle it. That much is plainly obvious. A thing can't be returned if it's not first untrapped. With nervousness buzzing at their fingertips, Rose begins. Each motion is deliberate and measured. Their fingers navigate the web of wires with precision of a seasoned surgeon, fingers moving dexterously without the cumbersome cover of their suit. They work by feel more than sight, each twitch and tug telling them about the wire's condition, its purpose, its place in the beautiful and terrifying tapestry of the heart. But it is by no means easy. They pinch a little bit too hard on the end of a wire and the tip crumbles underneath their grasp, flattened into dust. They freeze, wordless for a moment as they watch the wire. Then, shaking their head, they return to their work, only for another fragment of the wire to fall away from their grasp, floating off of the heart and into the core around them. Moments ago, when they had begun to pinch down, there hadn't even been a wire between their fingers. Shit. The calm that had been so prevalent in their head only moments beforehand goes crashing away. The heart's overwhelming, peaceful presence pushed away for fear. It vibrates amidst the pressure as they try to clear away the wires in front of them, no longer held still from its self-containment. Any attempts Rose makes to hold it still result in slowing down, certainly, but attempting to thread through wires at the same time causes more and more pieces to fall away. Their hands shake. Come on, not now. Panic begins to form in their chest, tight and traitorous. The task that they had started with so much confidence now looms in as the arduous impossibility that it is. Even with Daisy's protection, they can feel their breath running short. Really? After all of this, it comes down to something as simple as I can't hold it still? The heart blurs in front of their eyes, though whether it's due to their own vision or the rapidly increasing velocity of the heart, they can't quite tell. It's humiliating. It's really, really humiliating. I've got it. Violet's hand cuts into their vision, clean and clear. For a moment, Rose can't register it. You just need someone to hold it steady, right? Forget it. This isn't time for Q&A. Violet's behind them, but besides them. Her form, absent any suit, presses against their own. Her hair trails out behind her, and Rose can't help but stare. She's almost the same, in the way that pictures you look for the first time after you take them are almost the same. There's a certain feeling to her nose, to her lashes, to the way she grips the heart that is more tender and awkward than the Violet that Rose has known before this. Please, just hurry up and don't look at me too long. I'm gonna lose my nerve otherwise. Right. If you just hold it here then. They move Violet's hands underneath their own, their vision and fingers trembling as they guide her to cradle the heart. If you could just do that then. Okay, got it. Thank you. They breathe it out so quiet, they're not sure if Violet could hear them, even this close, but like I said, don't mention it. When Violet's throat is right up against their ear, they can hear her swallow. I appreciate it. I'd be a little upset if you didn't, honestly. Felt like I was going insane every step of the way up here. Well, not so much step, but Rose can hear Violet's real breathing in real air. This is really scary. I'm really scared. What scares me infinitely more than... fuck. The heart slips from Violet's grasp for an instant and Rose yelps unceremoniously, piece floating away dangerously close to one of the rapidly spinning debris chunks before veering off course. Rose's own heart pounds in their chest as they find the heart tossed into their arms, wires fanning out to either side of their shoulders. Shit, are you alright, Rose? Yeah, sorry. I'm just really happy right now. Violet clicks her tongue and it echoes around the core. At a time like this, you're happy. Save that for when we can fold our arms together and say something cliche like mission accomplished or something. So right now, Daisy's chest is still empty. Well, not for long. Violet rolls her eyes, but she's smiling as the two of them drift down to where Daisy sits atop one of the railings, legs swinging idly as if they had not a care in the world. Rose cradles the heart securely in their arms, navigating the environment with ease. Despite their unfamiliarity with this space, their movements are precise as if they've been practicing them for decades. I will assume it went well. Sorry, that was a lie. I do not need to assume when I can see plainly in front of me that it did go well. Just one more step now, then it's done. It's not that big a deal. Well, I mean, if I mess up, we're all dead, so... But you will not. You are a mechanic. The utter faith that Daisy has in them is, well, heartwarming. Violet hovers at Rose's side, her eyes fixed on the heart. There's an unspoken tension in the air as Rose moves to slot the heart into its rightful place, a feeling that's almost palpable. The wires slide in first, pulled forward with a kind of magnetism. They flow like streams of silver into the surrounding crevices within the mechanical body, intertwining with Daisy's internal structures. One by one, they connect, glowing with artificial life. The rest of its mass follows, its plates fitting seamlessly into the gaps. Every piece aligns perfectly like a well-crafted puzzle, slotting in with the symphony of soft clicks that echo. Violet's hand aids Rose, guiding and supporting where needed. Together, they watch as the heart gradually becomes one with Daisy again, the boundaries between them blurring until they are indistinguishable. The final bits of it snap into place with an almost musical note, resonating within hums of machinery in the otherwise silent chamber. Daisy's body melds with the heart, and when Rose blinks, it looks as if it had never been lost in the first place. Daisy shudders, perhaps the most unnatural motion they have ever made, and their eyes close. For a second, the lights flicker, turn off. Everything in the chamber seems to be holding its breath. Rose and Violet exchange a glance of mixed relief and apprehension. Then, as though an unseen conductor has raised their baton, the symphony of life begins. One by one, the systems come back online. The quiet hum of electricity surging through dormant circuits fills the room, a soft whisper promising the storm to come. The wires, previously limp and devoid of energy, spring back to life. Sparks of electricity dance along their lengths, illuminating the chamber with an almost ethereal glow. The color returns, vibrant and pulsating, breathing life back into mechanical veins. The wires flex and twist, a serpentine dance of energy, a visual testament of the vital force flowing through them once again. The entire core itself begins to glow, the heart in Daisy's chest radiating a warm, pulsating light that swells with every passing second. It's a miniature sun, birthed within the chest of a machine, a beacon of life amongst the rest of this landscape. Its glow ebbs and flows in the beat that Rose has grown so familiar with and missed so dearly. The hum grows louder, resonating throughout the chamber, filling the silence with the promise of life, and then... Daisy's eyes flicker open, radiating a vibrant glow that cuts through the semi-darkness. The life within them is undeniable, a bright flame that fills up Rose's own chest. The two of them can only watch, breathless, as Daisy surges back into existence. You do not need to hold back. If you like, you may come. If you would like, you may come here. And in a surge of pure, unadulterated joy, they do. Daisy's arm cradled them as they collide into them, their arms moving with the fluid and gentle grace they have always possessed. Rose loses themselves in Daisy's arms. Beside them, they can feel Violet leaning into it as well. If angels exist, then Rose thinks they are being hugged by one of them. I can't say the words I feel yet. Even if I mean them, they're still overwhelming to think about for too long. But they're no longer as terrifying as they were beforehand. Taking it off was scary. Taking that leap was scary. It was the scariest thing I've ever done. But I saw you up there and I was so scared that I'd blink and it'd be the last time I ever saw you. I don't think I could live with myself if I didn't do something. And when it came down to that, well, it didn't seem like I had a choice. There's no real option if one of them is leaving you on your own. Far scarier than taking off my helmet was the thought of losing you. But even if there had been something else, even if you had been fine doing it on your own, I'm glad. I'm glad that I was able to help, that I stepped out. Being held like... It's nice, right? Violet does not respond. She does not need to. Maybe it's not right of me to say this when I am not capable of passing proper judgment. However, even if I am lacking in the means to do so, I know that my creator would be so happy to see this. It's okay. This can be your feeling too. You were right. There is no purpose in holding back at this point. I am proud of the both of you. I am happy for the both of you. Doing something unknown is frightening. Saying or doing something that could change you forever is frightening. But you did it, and this time, things turned out okay. I am indescribably happy about that. I am too. Me as well. 10 minutes from now, when they finally remove themselves from their embrace, Daisy will return to their place in the core. Rose will cry. Violet will too, if less. Maybe they will speak to each other again. Maybe they won't. Neither of them want Daisy to be too lonely anymore. Not when they learned of all the love the moon has to offer, of all the love the moon deserves. But for now, not to sound too sentimental or anything, but I think it was a good thing you stumbled into us, Daisy. Yeah. I don't know what I would have done without you. Even if it was kind of strange a lot of the time. Really, really strange. Next time, ask before peering into our heads, okay? Or anyone else's, for that matter. I'm glad I met you too. Cute. Also, that was adorable in the best way. And I'm glad I got to finish it tonight. Also, the bunny makes so much sense. I was so confused about that when I opened it up. I was like, why bunny? I think I know I had the rabbit in the moon. Yeah, it was very fun. I'm glad we got two of the three. There are always more sad Yuri games. At least one of the two was not like brutally sad. I'm probably not going to stream again until it's December and I have a bunch of old games for December. But oh, okay. I like it being a bunny better. But yeah, that was super cool. Thanks for hanging out while we checked it out. Let's see. Let me see if anybody's around. I cannot. I assume Sass isn't. Sass is not on. Okay. She's one of the few people that I know that does via. Oh my gosh. Okay. Nope. I'm still awake enough to drop into Emmy. It's a little early. She just turned on, but it is so rare that I get to raid one of the best streamers. Period. What? Yeah, thanks for hanging out. Emmy is she plays a lot of DOS games. She's very strange. I really like hanging out. Hopefully I can stay up long enough to see a couple games. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out, and yeah, we'll see you next time. I have no idea when next time might be. I kind of just stream when I feel like it. But yeah, thanks. See you all next time.